Okay, here we go. Boopity boop boop boop. Welcome. Welcome to my stream. Let's do stuff, shall we? Let's go to Discord. I don't have a topic picked yet, but I think we should have topics updating 4 of 15. Holy crow. Why so many updates, Discord? Oh, at least it's fast. 12 of 15. 13 of 15. That I've never seen that many. 15 G's. And it's also 15 dot 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 dot, which makes you think like, what if it's 150? Okay. What do I want to talk about? All right. Oh, it's installing. Oh boy. Okay, hope Discord's better now, because why? Topic. I had an idea for a topic. Okay, here we go. Oh, that's nice. Okay, it does look like there's actually some good upgrades. Okay. Okay, and we're here, and we're, oh, let me check my settings. Audio, good. And HChat.
But then, so I learned a lesson not getting too frustrated, but there was one and I grabbed it so I could just pull it and like pull it off because it was so old. Well, when I did that, I must have been shaking it too hard because then the ladder like slid out from underneath me and I just fell. So
this is how way too many men get injured, is by falling off of ladders, Kyle.
I know. I've never felt more like a man in my life. I'm just kidding.
I mean, to be honest, I watch a lot of like medical stuff, and any of the stuff you watch about ER, the amount of calls they get that are just dumbass men falling off of ladders is ridiculous.
Too high.
Which, Jane, I didn't realize you joined the call, but hi.
Hi!
But yeah, I like medical stuff, so it makes it very entertaining. I watch that stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I could totally see certain people I know doing that.
Well, now I'm added to that list.
I mean, I didn't say it, you did. Jay is not a handy person, so it's not a concern we're ever gonna have, but
Oh, I am someone who will be like, no, Kyle, that's not what we're doing. Like, that is not the solution. Get down from there.
Yeah, but here's the thing, with most men, that is not how that goes.
Oh no, I mean, I was like, we're not going to the hospital today. We're just not doing it.
Basically, but yeah. Like, anyway. What's that?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. No, I was just saying that's why I don't know if I'm going to do my Housekeep-a-thon. I think I'm just going to lay around.
Yeah, you should, because that's what yeah. Rest, ice, elevation.
Kyle.
He told me about it, but like he told me like the whole story leading up to it. Like he's just saying like, you know, like he's obviously gonna ask me about like how to deal with the injury or what I thought it was, because I know stuff about the body. But like told me like the whole story about it too, and I kind of had to be like, okay, what did you hit, and how did you hit it? Like, I was just waiting for
And
like
why?
yeah. Well, there's just like a long time for me to wait to be like, I was like, how bad is this? Like, but it seems like he's okay. I was a little bit worried it could have torn a meniscus, but it seems like even if you can have little tears of the meniscus and your body will be able to repair it. The only concern is if it tears and it keeps tearing.
Right.
Yeah, but so don't make it worse is the thing. So rest today, relax.
Okay. Yes, doctor.
Yep, exactly.
This is what you get for basically having somebody that knows too much as your fiance, Kyle.
Yeah.
That was good. There was like a little click I had in my knee. No click today, but click could have been a bad thing. So it was good to like check out and all.
Yeah.
And then
Did you actually wind up seeing anybody?
no, she wants me to go to the urgent care, but yesterday I was too grumpy because all I did was I woke up and I just started working. I didn't eat. I didn't get to do anything fun, and I was like, no, I don't want to go.
If it swole up,
No,
you'd be going. Like I'd be like insisting, but it didn't swell up, so it's like, okay, yeah, you probably can get away with it. And if you tore your meniscus, it's not like they're gonna do anything special right then anyway.
Kyle, you sound more and more like a middle-aged man the more that you talk though about this.
I'm old. I'm like 46. I'm a 56-year-old man.
Just in that energy of that moment, yeah.
Okay, speaking of moments and stuff, topic for today. Any thoughts on that?
I was thinking, what about stuff that we're interested in? Because
Oh yeah.
I think it can be good. Like a lot of times we talk about like problems and hard times we have.
Yeah.
I think sometimes in life it can be fun to be like, what's something that interests you and why and what does it mean and da 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 da.
Let's do just special interests.
Yes.
Okay.
I like hearing what other people like.
Me too.
And I mean, if it's a server full of autistic people, you'll get a lot of people willing to do that too.
Exactly. They're like, finally.
I mean, that's pretty much what happens, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In the announcement in the Discord, put that on there.
I will.
Because I know some people are around, like I know support's around.
Hi, Jamie. Our topic today is special interests. Isn't that great? Let's go.
Oh, the thing's on. Oh, hi, Jamie. The thing's on.
It's on. We're on. Okay.
What the?
Here it is. Okay. I'll title this one that too. Merp, 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 merp. Oh. Okay. And then announcements, I guess. Where are we?
Makes enough sense.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hi, everyone. Hello.
Somebody joined.
I did not.
Oh, so I was right. I did say
Or question
support was
everything.
around.
Hello.
Hi, support.
How should we address you? Should we use?
Whatever comes to mind to address me is how you should address me.
Perfect.
Yeah. I've actually gone back and re-added my birth name to the list of names that I feel are acceptable to address me with.
I'm proud of you.
Any name that I have had or have are my names, and yeah.
Awesome. That's cool. Neat. Today's topic is
'Cause
special interest.
That, honey, is not a name I added. Special interest, yay! I love those.
Yeah. Right? Everyone's gonna come today.
It's the best topic.
That's how you get all the autistic people to join the call.
Yeah.
You mean I can info dump and you want me to? You
Yeah.
talk about this?
Yeah. Can't really
We need like
your
a
silly mushroom.
we need a special conch shell that we blow whenever it's time to talk about special interests, and everyone just like floods in.
You have that scene like it goes over all the different parts of the island, all the different biomes, and the animals just sort of look up,
Yeah.
whatever kind of animal they are, and they all just run with a
Yeah.
massive stampede. I see it in like the Adventure Time sort of
Yes,
style.
yes.
Oh my god.
And I have a new term, autistic stampede, and that's when you say it's okay to talk about your special interest.
I'll take the stampede.
Oh my god.
There's a great artistic migration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see.
Oh
so,
yeah, we just found a new city, and we say that the founding charter of the city is that it's always okay to talk about your special interests.
Mhm.
Yeah.
There's just an autistic migration to that city.
Got some special interest lists in the chat. That's good.
Oh.
Oh,
How do I?
This is tricky because like Jamie's like special interest, analyzing the ethos behind why people say what they say and what are they doing when they do this, what are they participating, and then I'm like, Jamie, wait, then you should learn my special interest of post-structural analysis, and then I'll take over the world.
actually, do
Yeah.
that. Do that. That is the right way to engage in that interest, though, and interests can evolve. It can certainly, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah, you should learn post-structural analysis. It's also technically math. Like, if you learn post-structural analysis, I need to pass some stuff on I forgot about that. I passed one thing on to Isaac, I think. There's some lectures you can find for free that are like from universities, and that's the best way to do it. And if you get like the really good stuff, they've got like, this sounds like drugs. They've got like whiteboards, and
Ooh.
yeah, it's necessary to like map this out with graphs because you have to explain the logic. So there's like a visual representation of how the logical relationships play out so you can see that it makes sense. So post-structural analysis is saying that everything is living and existing in some form of causal universe that we can only perceive up into a certain limit because we have human brains that are sense-based. So we have to take in sensory perceptions and then try to make an approximate map of the universe that we actually live in, and that everything you say could be deconstructed as a proposal of which universe you believe that we live in, and then you have to have like an argument for that is also logically sound. And so like post-structural analysis recognizes that the universe we live in isn't one of essentialist qualities that we are like a mirror image of, or like a reflection of, or a tainted version of, really a fallen version of. But so that's essentialism, is like saying that like there's an ideal chair and every chair is just a poor imitation of it, and there's like the most cherished chair ever to chair, and it's kind of like a theistic dualism. And it's and we're vulnerable to it for a whole bunch of reasons that you can argue for embodied reasons, which is a post-structural analysis, because then you're saying that, well, there's a causal reason for why we believe in essentialism, and every form of analysis after realizing we don't live in an essentialist universe but a causal universe is post-structural, because structuralism comes out of believing in an essentialist universe, and that's how you would think about problems if you did live in an essentialist universe, but we don't. So the way you think about problems after that is post-structural, because you're conscious of it from then onwards. Even if you do it badly, you're still conscious of the problem. Like, as soon as I said this to you, and if it makes any sense to you whatsoever, you now exist in a post-structural mindset, if poorly developed, or maybe it's already well developed. Anyways, that's why you should do post-structural analysis. And it's not that hard to learn. Like, you can just go like more in depth is really what it is. But as soon as you're conscious of it, you know that you're not going that in depth of it, you've also accomplished a post-structural mindset, because you're like, oh, if I knew and understood and had this tool better developed in my own brain, then I could analyze more of the causal universe and the relationships that are cause and effect. So you, just because you can't analyze a cause and effect relationship doesn't mean you can't appreciate that it's probably there.
Mhm.
Ta-da!
I just noticed Jamie's special interest of Pokemon collecting and putting things into order, and was looking at the association between those, which made me think of this idea I just put together a few moments ago about how what we describe as control and our desire for control, and how this ties back to the animal not instinct, the animal behavior of territoriality, right? And how this means actually taking the landscape and identifying it as part of yourself. When you say this is my territory, you're saying this territory is part of myself.
Yes.
And then when you get into the desire to collect something, to complete a set of collection in something like Pokemon, this is putting yourself into order, because this is your collection that should be complete. You want to order yourself, you want to complete yourself, and have access to all of the items that are part of yourself in the future, right?
You can also say that the things within this territory will be utilized for maintaining myself. Like when I have something that needs to be rebuilt or built new, or whatever needs that I have, I believe that I will require these things that the territory will contain, these traits that then I can utilize as I see fit.
Yes, that's probably an even better way of phrasing what I was saying.
I think I was just adding.
Sure, that too.
Yeah, it was already there.
Thank you for not letting me accidentally put myself down.
Yeah, no, it was already there. I just was coloring it in a little brighter.
Yay. Teamwork.
Woohoo! Yeah, we're all together. We're not quite a hive mind. Like, we're not quite that, but we are little ants that are like, what have you seen? I've seen this. What have you seen? I've seen this. And we can't stop talking. So, like, we should be happy that we're talking to each other, and that, like, we don't just talk to ourselves about our own insights like a weird, crazy god.
Yeah, and how great is it that we don't communicate via smell like ants do?
Right. That
would be awkward.
We don't have to smell each other's vomit to figure out what's going on or whatever. We're pretty lucky in that way.
Yeah.
Could have been worse, you know?
Actually, I bet that's a reason that humans took over the planet rather than ants doing it, is because sounds are so much more reproducible and easier to transmit over longer distances compared to the way ants communicate.
Vomit, yeah. Well, it's kind of like vomit, but yeah, we don't have
Vomit's
to.
not super reproducible.
No, it's not. It's really not. So yeah, it's great, right? Like, we're really lucky. It's like, you know, we could record this on wax and stuff and reproduce it. We don't have to reproduce vomit chemicals. Like, you know, like our archives. Can you imagine us shooting vomit chemicals out into space? Like our message from Earth. What do they call that thing? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, instead of the
sort of thing. I'll look it up.
Yeah, that thing we sent out that said like nice messages about like greetings from the children of Earth. It would just be like, blah!
It's just called the Golden Records.
Yeah, the Golden Records. It would have been the Golden Vomit.
It's like a big bowl.
Oh no! Wait, what if aliens treat words like vomit and vomit like the valuable thing, and this is where we fucked up and why nobody wants to deal with us?
Yes. Right, we're like, why has no one heard all of her radio signals? And it's like, well, none of them are communicating via vomit or other utterances. Why would they come?
Right, exactly.
You sound like stellar noise.
Yeah, We sound like stellar undigested, like energy and calorie, whatever. Oh wow. Or poopy. Maybe we sound like poop.
Maybe they only make sounds when they're having stomach issues.
Yeah. Or well, like
Because
maybe sounds are their waste products, right? Like maybe it is their poop, right? So
Yeah.
they're like, why does this species communicate in feces? That sounds more plausible. Honestly, that explains a lot.
Yeah.
And everyone in the alien species are like, have you heard what happened over there? What, on the poo planet? No, I don't care.
Yes, no one wants to be the first contact person with the weirdo.
Ah, no, that's probably it. Ah. Okay. All right, I'm gonna start doing the room stuff. I have to throw away a lot of things. I have a and I'm gonna give Merlin some food too. Merlin, want some food? Oh, good boy. Let's give you some breakfast. Boop boop. Alrighty. So, yeah, I'm gonna try to do much more cleaning than I have been. More scrubbing things down and things like that. My butterflies came in to alter my dress with lots and lots of butterflies. So that's exciting. And
Fashion is a special interest.
Oh yeah, fashion is a special interest. Like, whoa, it's so very invested in that one. Yeah, and I let Fox is the person that I met through Ruckus and Rumpus, who's like really appreciates my work there too, which is really nice. But Fox has experience with theatrical costuming, so they're gonna come over and help me do the dress. So I just sent them
Awesome.
the like, look, the butterflies came in, and they're like, yay! So that's gonna happen pretty soon, and I'm like, and my shoes came in. I took a risk on DH Gate, and I'm gonna leave these people a really good review. I'm like, you guys knocked it out the park. So DH Gate, they'll make knockoffs of like designer shoes, and there's some designer shoes that were like pretty poppin', like even a little bit ago, like they might even be like a decade ago or something, but they did the best ones, and they actually came. They do smell like toxic, but that's just fine. They're just on my feet.
You could wipe them with just like.
Oh, I aired them
even
out.
kinda-
Yeah, they're fine now. But yeah, but when I first got them, I'm like, wow.
In case there is some residue that might be bad for your skin.
Right. That's a good idea, actually. Ooh. Oh, that's great. I love it. The picture.
Oh, yeah, so I have this new plan to put up on my wall these really adorable to look at happy phrase reminders of
love
things
it.
that need to be fixed
Yes.
regularly.
I love them.
Right? And it's through the lens not of this is what you have to do to fix it. Because what you want to do isn't do fixing. What you want to do is have working functional objects.
Yes.
So it's like, I want to have clean cat litter that smells good and there's a smiling cat because the cats are happy. I want to have a medicated brain where I've taken my pills and all the pills are dancing around in my brain and helping things work well.
Can we do this for Artie Party?
Clean. Yeah, sure.
I
want to have a clean kitchen, where it's radiating its shining cleanness so that I can use it when I need to. Right?
Also, so I don't
clean floor, not.
I don't flap a lot, but like I have a version of it, and like I know that I do, and I have since I was a kid, but I don't do it very often. But I'm like, yes, now I want to do it. I'm like, oh yeah, talking about special interest makes me feel like like good autism movie. That's fun.
Yeah.
Good autism movie. I like that.
Yeah. It's nice. And then yeah, because I was just thinking that like I have my digital portrait thing, and I could have all my different ones, and I could scroll through them and be like, oh, which one? Oh, this one. Oh, this one, because I want to make mine too. Oh, it's such a good idea. Yay!
Yeah, and I think this gets past the issue with chore lists for us.
Right.
We don't want to do the chores, and we don't need to be reminded of the details of how we fix these things.
Yes.
I don't need to put down all the steps for how to clean the kitchen. I just need to remember I love it when the kitchen's clean because then my house is functional.
Right.
I love it when the cat litter has been cleaned because then both my cats and myself don't have to deal with it not being clean, right?
Yes. Yes.
All these, the framing it works with the way our motivation works.
Oh, how fun. And there's lots of ways to like be creative and like how, like I was thinking it's like I want to order some merchandise stickers finally, and I figured I'd get some like party favor stickers for people who can come to like the reception. And then I could also make some stickers, because if I do it all in a bulk order, it's cheaper, right? I could also do some stickers of this, and then like I could stick them onto magnet backing and then make magnets too. Sorry, that's very exciting.
I just realized that Chuckaboo Art Time is the same thing as Arty Party, and that's fine. But
yeah.
They reinvented the same thing.
No,
but
it's great
it
though.
makes more sense to me.
Now it's more motivating.
I know it. I know what it is.
Precisely. Yes. Okay. All right. So, special interests are great. Of course, my brain is like still kind of popping around post-structuralism and like how people should learn post-structural analysis because it's the best thing. And that like I want people to learn it because then like they'll either themselves be like, oh, I don't have to look at people who don't know how to do this, and then they'll just not do that anymore. Or people that are like talking for some reason because we're compulsively vomiting, as we say. So people who are doing that can be like, there's go ahead.
The cover of Sick that I made for you.
Yes.
We're compulsively vomiting.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, so the people compulsively vomiting, like not post-structural analysis, can be like, oh, like I should either stop doing this or learn to do the useful thing instead if I want to keep compulsively vomiting. Which, like, fair, I do too.
Yep. The moment you said, like, and you could just stop listening to people who don't do post-structuralism, I was like, oh, that's right. I've already started that, but now that I know that's what I'm doing, I can do it better.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if they don't have that framework, then they don't have the ability to build models that are meaningful to me.
Exactly. And you can always glance at, like, in a post-structural way, like, why are they doing that for a little bit, just to know about the landscape. But then they're done. Like, like they're done for the time being. I like that. It's like, especially if there's more of us who are doing the other work, then you don't have to feel like, shit, I really have to analyze it because what if somebody stops me, right? Because when you're all by yourself, you're like, oh no, nobody's doing this. What happens when you do it, right? Like, but if there's more of us and we have a little, coterie, we can be standing side by side being like, nobody touch us. You're scared of people in a group. Go away. And we're spooky because we have autism.
Yay, my coterie term is catching on. I love it.
Yeah. But yeah, they'll be like, why are you able to do things? That's scary. And I'm like, isn't it though? Ooga booga. And then we can be left alone to do our work. And attract a couple more people who want to do the work, and maybe a lot more people. That would be lovely. And then this human species can be a lot cooler. which would be good because if we're not cool, we torture and murder each other. Apparently.
Very apparent.
Oh, a watch streak. That's exciting. You got a bunch of little bubble points.
Oh.
You've just not found the right people. It's hard to find the right people. I think, like, I've tried to find the right people, and I keep coming back to, oh, never mind. I'll have to make the space for people to learn about, like, this option. It's because, like, the other spaces, it collapses into light switch cult. Like, when then people are fighting over, like, but my light switch cult is more light switchy than your light switch. I was like, okay, I'm leaving. Like, I can't watch this.
I found myself, I have to create my own Discord servers and invite the good seeming people that I find out in the wild to this space that I've curated for myself and my media.
And when it gets better, you can invite
with them out in the wild.
Yeah, when it gets better, you can invite people a little more seamlessly, because that's where I'm at. Like, there's a few people I found in my travels where I was like, maybe I'll circle back and see if that person wants to come over here. But I still need to develop this space strong enough that when people walk into it, they're like, oh, not in a ring. Oh, what's not in a ring? Like, what is that? And it's like, welcome to post-structuralism. The only way to understand what we're doing. And that's exciting, right? It's like, you either, like, on some level understand what I'm saying. Like, okay, I think that the attitudes are caught not taught thing is important here. Like, if you see someone doing post-structuralism and you are just a little bit open to the idea that, like, maybe this person's healthy and how did they do it, you'll probably figure out some of it without having to do, like, a really abstract conversation with yourself or other people. But then after that, you really do have to, like, just work on it, because the concepts need to be, like, at the level of the universe. Like, like, the universe demands you to understand concepts on a certain level, and you already have limitations because we're the humans that speak and vomit. You know, that yeah. So you do have a responsibility to do the best with what you have to work with, which is a human brain, which clearly has a lot of issues. But once you know that, it's like you got the rest of your life to work on it. And if we stand together in a little clump, probably your life won't be cut short by an abusive lunatic who's stuck in the light switch cult. So we can relax a little bit. That's how I feel, at least.
Yes. Well, if someone like that shows up in the Imaginarium, you now have a lot of people around you that can see that it's that kind of person.
Right.
And in the world in general, no one has the ability to notice that, right?
Yeah.
And we're supposed to rely on others to extend our ability to be safe.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Okay, let's see here. And I think it's important.
And,
go ahead.
Even if one of us as an individual ends up not being safe, right? At least your mimetic load won't die with you.
Yes,
right? It's been distributed.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So it's another thing that we count as part of ourselves and we worry about when we worry about safety.
Right. And we're investing our time with people that won't forget, you know? Like, I have confidence in that, and that makes me feel a lot more comfortable about me existing in the first place, instead of being like, oh, what a cruel joke of the universe if I was existing and had nobody to talk to. So it just you know, on many levels it improves my motivation, because it feels like, okay, what needs to be built can be built in this universe. Like, that gives me a sense that the causal dynamics that I'm being exposed to will allow for it. And I'm like, thank God. Like, there's some give here. We're making some progress. Okay. Even if it's difficult, even if some people have locked in your structure a mimetic illness that distorts everything, even still, there's ways for me to be safe enough, even in those conditions, that this is tenable, that we can get to our species in a way that actually works, get through to our species, because that's what we're arguing for. It's like we have to get through to our species, and our species is locked in a very, very serious problem that they've interpreted as the only way that they can exist, because it's so self-reinforcing, because it can create something that's very similar to actual recursion. And so they think they've arrived at the place they should be, because recursively it feels successful, but it's not actually. It's not true recursion. And you need post-structural analysis to be able to discern recursion from social reality, like recursive reality, the true situation, and the true causal dynamic, like cause and effect that you are living in from a fiction.
I'm becoming more like you, Jane. I've read a book, like a proper book, a non-entertainment book, and now I just want to recommend it to everyone all the time.
Yeah, good. Well then, and that
It's
speaks
so
to
good.
the power of it, right? It's like, okay, there's something.
Yes.
If you're recursively doing it, there's something to the thing that I was recursively doing, and we're slowly adopting behaviors that are
We're
more.
trying
Go ahead.
recursive.
Yeah.
There's just more recursive, right?
Yeah. And they survive because that is what recursion is. It's something that a behavior that agrees with the environment sufficiently that it is not destroyed by the environment. And that's the problem of this torture cult we have, is that the false recursion is the fact that human beings can kill each other. So then we kill things that are a threat to the false recursion. They're like, oh, crap. Well, you're showing that the environment doesn't actually reproduce this, and the emperor has no clothes. Let's murder the boy that says they have no clothes. Or the child,
Right. Right, so it's this cult of pruning away true recursiveness to make space for this false recursiveness to continue seeming recursive.
Right. And which can be called propaganda.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, absolutely, Jamie. Jamie's saying that's what some Twitch streamers are doing. It might just be a band, but actually, it's like your soul is being hit like a voodoo doll. They are murdering you like a cult sacrifice.
Right.
Yes, you're a scapegoat. You're an offering towards the validity of their worldview.
Right.
That if you don't fit into this worldview, then you get sacrificed and banished. They use their violent control to maintain the validity of their worldview.
Arguably, the point of their stream is to find scapegoats to publicly do that to. If they really had something to say and somebody was distracting from it, they would want to try to handle that and then get back to what they were talking about. And it wouldn't have to be this whole, dog and pony show, this whole theatrical display of, oh, burn them. It would just be, that's not what we're talking about. Can you go away? And if somebody doesn't go away, okay, that person's abusive. Maybe we have an exploration in how the internet facilitates abusive people having access to those they want to abuse, and then we try to move on. And it's so bad right now that I couldn't continue streaming regularly, and I will again stream in the future, right? I'd still do this, but it was not tenable for me to stream and learn the streaming process at this point while still maintaining other parts of my life that I need to solve, from the perspective of, I'm autistic and there's barriers and other issues. But that the only reason they exist, they can't really defend what they're doing. They're just looking for people who they can say are bad and are the down in the light switch. And then
so they can't logically ground what they're doing. Use the term defend, and that goes into their narrative of a war.
Right.
Body through the war metaphor.
Good point.
Highlight
Thank you.
That's not what's happening.
Yeah, they can't ground it. Exactly. They can't situate what they're doing. That's yeah, exactly. So there's no purpose for them to be doing what they say, that as soon as they get all the bad people out, they'll totally do something. It's like, no, that is what you're doing. What you're doing is the thing that you recursively do, which is look for scapegoats.
That metaphor, the embodied metaphor of defending your ideas itself, it is part of why people react the way they do to their ideas being questioned. Right? It's that you defend it as though it's something that needs to be defended, rather than something that exists as in accordance with reality or not.
Right.
And you just want to know that, right? If you wouldn't want to defend a belief you have that isn't in accordance with reality.
Right.
But then again, that very idea comes from like a post-structural framework of viewing reality and what it is. Oh, and I wanted to say about these kinds of Twitch streamers is that they don't stream and then just talk about their own ideas and just work on their own thing, right? They go out to criticize others, because then they don't have to be in the position of creating their own thing, which they don't know how to do.
Yes. They're trying to make the data fit their model, right? So so what they're doing is, like Jamie said, but really that's all they would do. That's their content. They are sitting there waiting to bait people into the trap to be caught with no regard for the person or what they've been through or their environment or why or anything. Exactly, precisely. Yes, that is a phenomenal analysis of it. What they're trying to do is say, this is the universe that essentialist universe that we live in, and there's these bad people, essentially bad people. And look, there's one. I've been accused of being one of the essentially bad people. And I've, even by their own metrics, have spent my life, and I'm spending huge chunks of my life doing the stuff that they say makes you good. So then the idea is that I'm supposed to defend why I'm still good, but why should I be judged by these people at all? They're delusional.
Yeah, and also good isn't a thing that exists.
Correct, that too, yes.
That is, right, that's an essentialist categorization of reality into a binary.
Yes.
It's not a term one should be using when they are attempting to speak accurately about reality. I was going to say, there's also there's an entire commodification of attacking others and getting outraged at them on purpose so that you can enjoy them being like attacked, them being shown to be not good. And I, last night I accidentally watched one because I was like, oh, this is related to autism. Let me watch. And then I noticed, oh, this person has gone out intentionally to find someone saying things that don't align with her worldview, just to enjoy and to produce the content of showing this is a bad person thinking the bad things. And there's no point for me to watch this because I already know that those ideas don't make sense, and I don't get any value out of it being like, it's a bad person's doing the bad thing here.
Yeah. And predictably, it starts to follow the same patterns of who should get abused in the system that already, light switches, right? So like conveniently, I should be attacked when, oddly enough, they wouldn't attack me if I made an OnlyFans and was just a sexualized, degraded person.
Necessarily, they wouldn't attack you in the same way, and you are promised less likelihood of being attacked if you do that, but it is worth highlighting that.
Oh, you'd still be attacked. No, yeah. No, but I'm saying, absolutely, I agree completely. But like, why am I being? Why is they're like conveniently the exact same category of people that we most treat that way? Like you're a young woman, and pretend that that's not what we're doing to you is trying to do something rather psychologically complex to cope with our own trauma, right? No, that's not it. You're actually bad. But I'm like, is it that, or are you able to acknowledge that some people would find me physically desirable for the role of sexual degradation. And I think the latter is true, and that's fucking creepy.
Mm-hmm.
And then right, if I say that to the wrong people, they'll be like, "Oh, you think you're hot?" I'm like, "Please shut up." That's not what we're
I was thinking?
on about. Go ahead.
Um, so like whatever, like different kind of commentators, Twitch streamers, or even people on Twitter, or even people at the dinner table, Facebook, whatever. Like the whole metaphor of doing is building versus doing is arriving, where it almost seems like the goal. Let's say you're talking about politics, right? It almost seems a lot of times that the goal is to arrive at some place where it's like I'm the one who's right about this, and we could arrive at a better world if we just did all this and all that. And the things that the people that I'm listening to are on the correct side, so anything they say is correct, and then the people you're listening to are on the wrong side, so anything they say is incorrect, versus the doing as building model, where it's a completely different way of looking at it, where it's like, well, what's true, what's not true, what works and what doesn't work specifically, and only that. It makes me think of another thing of, I wonder if there's another metaphor for doing as it does fit in doing as arriving, but it's like I want to be somebody who people listen to, and I want that to be my job. It's not that's not doing as building. Doing as building would be like I want to know everything about this thing. So
well, isn't that's like that's a perpetual stating of having arrived. Like that's saying like I already arrived, and therefore you should listen to me.
And I'm thinking if there's a stronger one, but I think it's good anyways. But anyways, I was adding that one in there because I think maybe because of the doing is building versus doing is arriving, maybe that's why. Like for me, I'm not autistic, right? But I think that the way I engage with the stuff I like is closer to being a special interest, if not a special interest, because I get like way into stuff I'm into. To the point where talking with people about it, it's like, whoa, that's intense. Whoa, that's a lot. Whoa, right? And I'm like, I think it's also because I do a lot more doing as building than doing as arriving. I much prefer to do as build. I can do as arrive, but I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
And it certainly doesn't come as second nature as doing as building. Doing as building is like automatic. I never had to be taught how to do that. Doing as arriving has actually taken many years of like trying to figure out what that even is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't have the language for it like that, but it makes sense. Anyway, so I'm wondering if that's why special interest kind of seems to be outside of currently what people think is what they can do, because they want to play guitar so they can play in a band so they can look cool. But I'm sure they enjoy it. But then there's some people who play music and they're like into the music. It does nothing else to do with it.
And that's what they call intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation, which is just like an attempt to talk about what we're now talking about on the level of grid cells, place cells, and proclivities that you may be stuck with if you have a disability. Like autism is just making you stuck with it. Now, that doesn't mean that you'll be successful working with that framework for other reasons, like societal or maybe other disabilities may pose another serious problem. But like the argument is that like doing as arriving can get hijacked by this thing that I'm calling like a light switch, and that we as a species, in order to be responsible for the kinds of brains we have, need to understand that. It just so happens that autism gives you a way to understand it because it's disabled a part of our brain that would make it possible for us to get trapped in that same problem, but we're not. We're trapped in other problems.
Yeah.
And I just sort of rephrased, summarized, made small, it condensed what I think some of your points were there, Kyle. I agree with them. And it's like people are saying, if you were all just good, we would arrive at the good place. All you have to do is follow the instructions and you will arrive, right? I followed the instructions. I am good, follow me. This is the way that people talk about the world when they're in this mindset.
My team got way off.
And Kyle was talking about, I think you also had something to this extent, like doing as building, you can also think of as like giving instructions versus giving directions. And that there maybe
Yes,
we should
that sounds like the Lego metaphor I was using just recently. Yeah.
Exactly. And then also when we're interacting with people who have this doing as arriving behavior, and like kind of like the Mr. Rogers things of like attitudes are caught not taught, like what did he really mean by that? Like we're phenomenal mimics, and like Mr. Rogers said that in regards to inviting a master sculptor into a classroom of, preschool students, who then just watched this guy and started doing incredibly imaginative things with clay that he'd never seen before, and it just exploded out at them. So, like,
I just realized that's how babies work.
Right.
That's how the human mind works. You
Right.
just pattern recognize and repeat.
Yes. And
right?
so, yeah.
This word keeps happening. This word is recursive. The sound is recursive. I'll make that sound. Then I get rewarded for that sound, so I'll make that sound more. And eventually you build the concept of a word.
So then so doing is building. If you allow us to like watch somebody build something, then we can copy it, then we get better at the skill, right? Versus what happens with doing is arriving. Like if you just copy somebody walking or moving to something, that's not building. That's not a difficult copy to do. You don't have to be learning or growing to do that. You just follow somebody. And then the argument is that like, oh, well, you don't get to see how the building works because you're not smart enough because you haven't arrived at this place. So then we don't let people see what's behind the curtain, which turns out to be fucking nothing, because like when people arrive at, and all they ever learn to do was imitate marching in place, right? Or marching wherever the person's marching, right? They imitate how the last person walked, and then they arrive there and nobody's built a damn thing, but they made it so that you get trophies. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to add is like, I think I'm going to pop away from objectification, because an object is just something that can be perceived with the senses. So that's why I'm like, there's a me object. A trophy is a specific kind of object, and that's the problem.
Mm-hmm. And well, the trophy just fits in linguistically with the metaphor of doing as arriving, and the way that things are shown as a race. And I like talked about recently to you, Jane, like even the word races of humans is embodied in the language of competing to get places first, so that those places are your trophy and thus are intrinsically yours.
Right.
And someone else's race shouldn't count because this is my race. I won this race. Your race should go away.
Right.
Right.
And this is why I have an issue with kind of like, well, let me put this carefully. So whenever we're like, but I own this land, I'm like, well, okay, when does the land ownership century begin? And is this how we should divide ourselves at all, or is maybe segregating our species after we had an accidental separation because of how land masses worked, and then we look different now, and now we obsess over the fact that we look a bit different, which actually gets really weird, because like, why do people want to be with people they look like all the time? I mean, like especially if you're gonna copulate with one. Little incesty.
So like from a evolutionary standpoint, from specifically a genetic standpoint, you want incest. You want to produce clones of yourself because that's more recursive. Right?
Well, but it isn't, is the problem. Like, because it breaks. Like, we know
it doesn't actually work that way. Yes, yeah, it breaks. But that's why there can be that sort of, or that's like one reason that sort of thing would emerge, I think.
Right, that makes sense to me. Yeah, it's a false model of recursion.
Psychologists talk about like the reason that things like self-sacrifice show up in humans is because we're like, oh, I can see in this person I'm sacrificing myself for some of my own genetic material. And
Right.
so in a way, by dying to save them, I'm propagating myself, aka
But
my
yeah,
genes.
and then my argument is that like what humans need to see ourselves is the recursive post-structural analysis. Like that's what we should want to have pass forward, and that is just a feat that we've evolved to be able to accomplish most of the time. Like most of our brains are capable to it, maybe some faster than others, but the overwhelming majority of human brains are capable of doing as building and then having a post-structural analysis of it, where your ability to build is then refined because you have an abstract way to critique it, right? Like how the buildings are being accomplished and what really is successful in the universe you live in, which then gives you a better sense of the causation that's occurring all around you. Like that cause and effect have been defining everything that is recursive, not this fiction that humans use threat and violence to propagate and make appear more recursive than it really is, when it's really just like, well, we can kill you, so we're right.
So an inch-long critter similar to a millipede called Camphocaris albanensis seems to be the oldest known animal to have lived on land. So if the land belongs to anybody, it should belong to Camphocaris albanensis, or the millipedes.
Perfect. The millipedes love it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Right.
Planet
Like,
of the millipedes. Yeah.
Millipedes were here first.
Yeah.
If that's how we're doing things, right?
Yeah.
And of course, like people have this, like, I need to have this land because I lived here. Because the only way to claim the right to exist in the world, when the world is what it is by making these claims of this is my land.
Right.
Right.
Also, I think
idea of
the
just
arachnas
land
also
people need it doesn't work. Yeah.
The arachnas got here before us, and then we were at war with, I guess, crabs for a while. So again, I still think, crabs should inherit the earth. Right. It's. I honestly think that's silly, but that's my whole argument of like I'm a little weird in that regard, where I'm like, well, but culture is constantly happening. We just draw an arbitrary line of which ones count and which ones don't. And I think the one that we should just keep doing is the one that isn't segregated. I'm completely against segregation, completely, fully, absolutely. And in so much as you have to have people separated at any time, it should be based on developmental issues, and that's it. Like, and so that we get to adulthood healthy. That's it. And in so much as you do that, it should be with a post-structural mindset being taught, so that the person knows, like, okay, I didn't choose to be a human being, I didn't choose to live in this universe with these physics, but I need to accept what I actually have and then work for the greatest good, which in my opinion is not torture. Is to like eliminate humans' ability to do torture to each other. Like, why are we doing that? I'm radically anti-torture, and I'm radically anti-segregation, and that's what I am. And I think that segregation, the way that I'm describing it, it's cultural. And we sometimes like make up different names for it. But yeah, so I don't believe in that, and that would get me in trouble with some people.
Actually, sorry. I think there's a more recursive framing of that
Wonderful.
You might not want to use, but it's just being radically pro-health.
Yes.
Every political opinion of any kind that I hold is just a pro-health stance.
Yeah.
I think we need UBI. I think we need universal healthcare. I think we need universal private tutoring, or like small, like groups of 4 tutoring or whatever.
Yep.
I think we need to increase taxes as a pro-health stance.
Yes.
And not even increase taxes, but do away with the concept of having more wealth than one needs, because it is unhealthy for a human to have more wealth than it needs.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. I love
All
it. Yes.
of these stances are simply radical pro-health stances. And nobody can come at you from a moral angle for having this single political belief. I am radically pro-health.
I love
because
it.
people love to come at us from a right?
Yeah.
From a moral angle.
Thank you. I think that's great. Yes, radically pro-health. That's absolutely what it is. And I think that, you know, health can only be understood from the perspective of a causal universe. That's what it is. It's to say that, like, this is the reality, and if we start to get that wrong, we hurt people inadvertently, and that's also unhealthy for us to do, because
Yes,
we're
and it's unhealthy
pro-social.
for us as well. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why people have stuff like cognitive dissonance, is they're trying to maintain their health in the face of realizing they are causing the decline of health of other people, even when that wasn't their stated intention, and they don't want to do that. Like, we're too pro-social. We do want that. And usually it's like the ends justify the means. Is just an argument for, like, well, if we do this, eventually people will be healthy, even though people are clearly not healthy as we do it.
And like another of the massive health issues is what we call the housing situation.
Yeah.
That Jamie pointed out in chat. This
Yes.
is simply a health issue, and it's an extreme health issue.
Yeah.
Right? Because beyond the fact that the bare necessities of human needs, there's a created social need to have a house to meet the the administrative requirements of the society we live in.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't have a home, it becomes drastically harder to have a job, and thus an income, and thus being able to afford
and
everything else that you need to live.
Humans need a space with which to build. So if we move towards the healthier model, the home should be facilitating building, which is why we need some sort of system for autistic people and people with different neurodivergent conditions to have homes that reflect this, so that when they're at home, they can do very good building, because this is the way that we can contribute to the species most effectively.
And then another issue with the way we do homing is an outgrowth of the radically individualistic, self-reliant, thing that we live within, so that you need a big enough home to contain copies of all the things you could need for all these different things you might want to build. Right. And so, like, we're in this apartment building that I'm living in, I have a huge problem because I can't, even if I could afford to buy power tools, I don't have the space to have those power tools to be able to build and modify my own furniture.
Right. And this is why I find mansions and such and the like, and what rich people buy, they often buy something and then use the space for nothing. Like, it's just a lot of negative, empty space. And it's very deeply disturbing to me, because I believe it's some sort of like a status symbol of like how they've arrived and all this shit, but they've got nothing to show for it. They don't know how to build anything, clearly. There's no interest. Like, that's why they don't want to have anything more in their homes. They really don't know how to build.
The commodification of fashion must really bother you, Jane, right?
Yes, it does.
It's like, oh, spend your arrivingness on the newest fashion so that you can signify to everyone that you're an arriver.
And they're hideous, right? They've developed no fashion skills whatsoever. So you can literally sell them like a garbage bag with tape on it, and they'll buy it.
Right, and they don't want people to learn actually how to create good fashion, because then they wouldn't have to buy it.
Right.
Right? They don't want people, like, the structure doesn't want people to have access to the tools and the knowledge to easily, cheaply build their own furniture.
Right.
Because then they can't make profits off of building furniture in what they say is the cost-cutting measure.
And they can't have trophy furniture.
Right.
This is all to make sure that some objects are trophies, including people, including women. And if something's supposed to be there, supposed to be a trophy, they get angry at it. So I think even some of the rage towards me, when I tried to pop on Twitch, there's got to be an explanation for it. And I think some of it is just that people said, you're physically attractive, you're supposed to be somebody's trophy, what are you doing? And that's a very gross thing for me to have to say out loud, right? Because that's not how I want to be defined. But I know what's happening. Go ahead.
I was thinking earlier about some of my personal experiences with, like, truly brilliant women who are streaming on Twitch who seem to have sort of put their education on halt and moved to doing things like OnlyFans as they
Yes.
continue Twitch streaming.
Yes.
Right? These people who I think are like clearly better thinkers than I am, who have a more natural affinity for it
Mhm.
or a greater ability to do it than I do. And I think I'm a freaking amazing thinker, right?
Mhm.
And yet seeing it corrupted and or not corrupted, that's bad language, to be sort of stopped, halted,
Yes.
to
Correct.
become motionless, to
Yes.
no longer build,
Yes.
but rather just parade themselves as a trophy to earn a living.
Right. Exactly. And this is why I think the essay, or the book rather, A Room of One's Own, is so important to read, from Virginia Woolf. Is she saying that what will happen to women is that they'll be interrupted by men constantly. So yeah, so they'll basically be told over and over and over and over again that you do not get to have a place to work on your ideas, and that when you try to bring up ideas, first you must listen to all of men's needs. Once you've serviced all of their needs, oh well, then we'll have time for your ideas, which is never. Because men's needs are a bottomless pit, because these are people who have no ability to regulate their affect, because that's another thing that this system destroys developmentally in the boys and males that are locked into the light switch cult. And it also implies to boys and men that their ability to regulate in early adolescence it will be their adult ability to regulate, because we all go through some difficult things with puberty, and I think that just needs to be stated over and over again, including times where your sexual urges, and this is true women too, like you basically have invasive thoughts, intrusive thoughts that are confusing. But I need to emphasize, at developmental stages, different confusing things happen. When you this is one that I think is really important. Many children have auditory hallucinations and visual hallucinations, because when your eyeballs and ears are hooking up, there can be some developmental delays, and your brain is basically making a lot of noise. So to ascribe meaning to the noise and say, well, this means you're sinful because you experience this noise, you are tainted. No, that's just a normal developmental phase that you will move through and shouldn't be afraid of. So we're taught to be afraid of how we develop, and that's not fair or true. And it also implies that there's an essentialist thing. Oh, we've discovered that you are bad. We discovered, oh, sorry, we were going to see if you were going to remain innocent and pure. Oh, you're bad. And then you're locked into this cult looking for redemption from them, looking for them to say you're finally good enough. It's a lie. It's a lie. And for the women getting caught up in this, it's again, it's saying like, well, you'll be good enough when you reassure us that you really don't mean to hurt our feelings. And that sometimes makes me angry. Like it really does. I don't need to do that. Anybody who questions my intentions is not sincere. They're not listening. They're not paying attention. They're locked in a light switch cult, and they've just learned to be disturbed and upset by the fact that I have somehow had a room of one's own in which to do my thinking, and then would like to share that in the public sphere, because I realize that my species is torturing itself. And that's intolerable for me. And should be intolerable for all of us. And the fact that it isn't, I attribute to the influence of this light switch cult. The torture gets more views, but that's it as long as you're in the light switch cult. Once you get out of the light switch cult, it is so disturbing, and you start to see the finest outcroppings of that torture.
You start to see everything as torture as you start to understand what health is.
Yes.
I watched this movie just the other day that was made by the same people who have been making movies for decades. But I was able to see how it was actually this story about like truly selfish assholes getting a chance at the end of the movie to just do a good thing one time. And actually, the movie Rain Man also is a movie where the main character is a truly selfish, horrible person. And the so-called payoff of the movie is that he chooses not to destroy the life of his autistic older brother.
Right.
That is the story of Rain Man,
Right.
and that's the supposed payoff, because so much of what is unquestioned parts of our society, our culture, is actually constant horrific abuse.
Yeah.
That it hurts to watch if you don't know that the point of watching it is to show this person learning not to do that anymore.
Yes, yes. And I would say also, if, you know, in terms of feminist analysis, like if you wanted a really quick litmus for like who is worth reading, who really gets it, who's not like somebody who's simply you know, being paraded out as like an acceptable version of feminism that our society can tolerate for some odd reason. You look for the person that says, I'm inviting you into anguish. I am inviting you to feel more suffering than you thought you could feel. That's the one.
Right. And again, you know, this is why all of pop feminism is what it is because it's the acceptable versions that celebrate women or talk about women being empowered, things like this, rather than saying this is reality and it's horrible.
It's saying, but what if femininity is really lovely and wonderful? We're just demonizing femininity. La 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 la. Like, and then we're gone.
Yeah, let's keep this femininity concept.
Yeah.
We'll just change it a little.
We'll just say that it's what they really, really want.
Oh.
That...
we'll just say that they're special. We'll just say that women are actually on top of the hierarchy without putting them there, without changing anything.
Oh, we'll
just let you say that you're on top.
Ladies, you're on the top of the hierarchy of listening to men. Yeah. So you just can't have a room of one's own because you're just so good at doing everything men want you to do.
Having a room of one's own is actually when you are a slave to a company as a powerful executive and a slave to a family as an unappreciated mother at the same time.
Yep.
Do two more than full-time jobs simultaneously and never ever take a moment to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you take a moment to yourself, you might not be hot enough, and then your man will go have sex with a prostitute who is supposed to be your enemy, even though she's also enslaved.
And it will be your fault.
Yeah.
And it will be your fault.
Yeah.
And right, if a man cheats, it is the fault of the woman he cheats with. Don't get angry at him, get angry at her.
You let yourself go, honey.
Get angry at yourself and her, both, and not him.
This isn't even a hard analysis. You know what kind of drives me wonkers is like, how hard is this?
Yeah. It's extremely easy.
Yeah. Maybe it's insulting that our species is this stupid, but what's nice is a little like thing to make us all feel better about how stupid our species is that if we just slow down and work on it, we get a lot less stupid. But running away from our own stupidity makes us more stupid. That's why we've come to the end of the road and we've hurt everyone. That's what I talk about. Like, and I know that we don't know what we've done. We don't want to hurt, so we're all on the run, and that's why we're dumb, and that's why we come to the end of the road and we hurt everyone. I made a song. It's in the song.
So Jamie said something that you should probably address.
Let me read it. Okay. How can I be a man?
I'll read it.
Oh, you go ahead. Yeah. Then I can just think.
Yeah. How can I be a man without upholding or being decided for me on my behalf that I'm upholding that system?
Okay, so I'm gonna do a radical analysis of this, which is to say getting to the root of it. So how can you be a man? Did you go through puberty? Is the answer yes? I'm being a little bit facetious here, right? But how can you have to exist and do things that make sense through critical analysis. So use your brain and don't let other people use you. Like, think through things. I would say learn post-structural analysis, and then you don't have to worry about what you are. Like, you will be defined by your behaviors. If somebody says that you are doing behaviors that you are not doing, they're lying. People will say, I do behaviors that I am not doing because they are lying. including behaviors like being stupid, right? So it doesn't matter what a cult says about you. They will say you're an apostate. They will say, whatever, what are the Scientologists call people? They have a name for that. Anyways, they'll call you whatever. So
Oppressive person, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. Oppressive person. So how can I be a man without upholding? Don't
that
listen
just
to them.
sounds so much like the language that the trans light switch cult uses. Oppressive person. It's right. It's a person who, through their existence, is oppressing others.
Right.
Who, by simply doing things and speaking and existing on their own, is causing harm and abuse.
Right.
Somehow.
Right. So like the thing is, like, you have to keep doing. How do you just do post-structural analysis? They can't do post-structural analysis. That's why things are going to shit. It sounds like the only qualifying condition for it to be prejudicially decided. No, you don't have to be. That's what we're saying. They've okay. No, it's not men do this. It's like, so men who are participating in a cult, right, will be expected to do these behaviors, and often any behaviors they do will be a reflection of that expectation. So you have to be able to analyze. You need to be, so how did you need to stop? And Kyle reminded me of this too recently. You need to stop, slow down, even though they're pressuring you to move. Like there's not one light switch cult. There's a bunch of them, and they're trying to compete with each other to get to the top of the hierarchy. And they're all inventing new novel ways to try to get to the top of the hierarchy, but they never figure out it's a light switch cult, all of you. Right? So what you have to do is disengage from them, stop listening to them, and go work on things that are worth working on. Go find actual meaning, because the meaning that they're trying to impose on you is nonsensical. So if anybody were to explain it that way, it doesn't make sense. And even when I explain something in a shorthand, that's not what I'm saying. And people in a light switch cult will say, yes, that is what she's saying. Because once again, they're projecting stupidity onto me. They want us to think stupidly, not in terms of like a really sophisticated analysis, which we are all very capable of doing. But the difference is, some people, you may do the analysis slower than me. That doesn't make you stupider. That doesn't make the analysis less worthwhile. Speed is not the concern, because we aren't doing as arriving.
Jennifer says, I am here for housekeeping. Are
Yes!
we like cleaning and organizing?
Yes!
And
Welcome in!
I wish you were here for the beginning of this conversation. It sounds interesting.
Yes,
so
we're doing.
Oh,
go ahead. You go.
A VOD, so you can always come back to Jane's channel later, look in the videos, and catch up on the conversation. It's been very interesting. So what we are doing here is we are repairing our living spaces, our habitats, back towards their idealized state, aka the state of being available and ready for our use, right? We are repairing the broken parts of our habitat. So if your dishes are dirty, they no longer function as dishes because you can't eat off of them. You need to repair those dishes by cleaning them, just as one example.
Yeah.
Jane is proud of me.
Yes.
Awesome. Why for specifically? Because there are so many reasons you could do.
I was just really proud of like the way that you explained what's going on, and that you took the initiative to do that, and then it becomes like a thing that I imagine this will eventually be, where like all of us have the skill and can do like there is no leader, you know what I mean? But there's times where it's like, oh, I'm ready to do it. I'm like, oh, you ready to build that? Great. And then you feel confident and you're ready to build it. And then I'm excited because then I get to see you build it. And then, attitudes are caught, not taught. And then I get to learn. I love it. I love learning.
Right. And that's the great part, is like I've hit the point where I'm like, oh, Jane isn't the teacher or the good one that I'm learning from. I'm not a disciple. We are genuinely peers. And I could genuinely produce things of the quality that you do, that you don't know about, just like you produce things that I don't know about.
Exactly.
Right? It's an amazing feeling.
Oh, and now, okay, so and now we'll go down from abstract land and into. I had made a few strides this week. I cleaned my tub and sink counter. Good job. And loaded the dishes and took out trash and vacuumed. Only loaded dishes today, and I just lost interest in reading, so I was thinking what to do next. I'm in a weird mood, intrusive thought place right now, and there's so many things that are in my control, and I want to use my time well. Great. Okay, so intrusive thoughts, fascinating. So I bet you've heard of, because you're pretty literate on this, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding, where you go 5 things you can see, 4 things you can hear, 3 things you can smell, 2 things you can touch. No, 3 things you can touch, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. I don't think you need to do all that. You can literally just be like, I'm going to look at a new thing. 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 Because your brain will make predictions based on your sense data coming in. And the most powerful one we have is sight. And as autistic people, our sight works a little bit different, where instead of seeing the whole room in context, like a floodlight, we got our one little flashlight. That metaphor works well enough to get this across. So we need to look at a new thing, look at a new thing. So in your space, you're just going to give yourself some time, look at thing, 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 look at thing. And I want you to do that until you have a moment. And it'll be like some sort of episodic memories, which means something that you've lived through where you're like, oh man, that's right. I like building that. I like building my Polly Pocket collection. That's what I happen to be looking at. And or right now it's like, oh yeah, I like building my flexibility. Okay, so I've been cleaning up the floor in the area that I do my stretching, so it's nice and clean, so I feel good about being on the floor. So I want you to look around and just wait until your brain starts to shoot back in time. That's the one I think would be the best to work on to get started in this process. So then you don't have to like dissociate and go into a super analytical framework. I want you to find literal, physical, actual objects, right? Because I'm sure there's like a million little projects around you that you would enjoy building. There is no build this first, build that second, it's better. There's no race to build the perfect one first. Eject that completely. I know we've learned that conceptually to try to fit in. They're wrong about it, and let's ignore it. Let's go out on a limb. So I want you to build anything, and you will learn about the process of building. And you have a whip smart brain. You can learn from anything that you touch. So I want you to find anything that your eyeballs latch onto, and you start going to that episodic fugue state where you're like, I remember who I am and what I like and la la la. That one. Just do that one. And you have permission to do that.
So I've noticed this issue with the way we've been taught to think about decisions is that it's from the binary worldview, where when there's a decision, there's a right one and a wrong one. And what there really is just you're deciding on the thing you built next. You're not deciding to go to the right place or the wrong place,
yes.
Right? So it's just what you build next. And so in a way, almost every decision, like obviously not jumping off a cliff, not ones that kill you, but any decision is a chance to learn and grow, is a chance to improve yourself and the world you live in somehow. And so what's important is the way you go about doing the things that you decide to do, and not to agonize over every little decision that you make.
Mm-hmm. I don't always have a flashback, I guess, or I don't notice, but I sort of get up and just do it. I eat my tub and sink. I was in the bathroom and was like, yes, right now would make sense to clean. So what I want to suggest is that everybody on the autism spectrum probably has a slightly better latching onto this, but I don't know what it's like for all of our brains. Of like, when I say going back in time, like, do you have a sense of yourself at 10, at 12, at 15, at 18, even if it's just a flash, and it's this weird sort of feeling like, oh yeah, me. Oh yeah, me. That's what I want you to find. And there are certain things, like if you stare at it long enough, it's going to create a web of that feeling of like, right, the me I'm building. Yes, when I felt like I was building myself and happy about it. So this is why I would argue that self-actualization is a very useful concept for autistic people and very healthy for us. So you may experience it more visually, you may experience it more like sensorily in the body, like there may be a more visceral feeling of it, there may be an auditory sound to it, it may be music, but I want you to get in touch with this like this feeling of like odd continuity that makes people think that we're magical. It's like, oh, the mystical magical autistic person, it's like they're from a different planet, they're an angel, maybe they're a devil, who knows what they are, like that thing where it's like you seem to know yourself. And I'm suggesting there's a really complex reason for that. It has to do with this concept of recursiveness, yada yada, but that you know this thing, and I want you to look around the room, and anything that you feel drawn to, that is the thing to work on. Sometimes people exploit this to make us super spiritual, where we're like running around with like a dowsing crystal or something. But you don't need that. You don't even need that framework of like, oh, like you're a mystical magical being with super magical intuition, because that's also misogynistic, because intuition and logic become dichotomous. Anywho, but you know something about yourself that has helped you to know what to pay attention to, because you use special interests as that way of learning. So I want you to pick the thing that makes you like go into that headspace that I'm trying to badly describe, that I bet you know what I'm talking about, and you have some version of it yourself. And if this is unclear for people, let me know if I'm wrong, but yeah.
So Jamie said earlier, men do this. That's a quote to someone saying, okay, I'm a man, so you're deciding I do that. So Jamie, you should stop thinking of yourself as a man, as essentially a man, and just think of yourself as a unique individual who happens to fit in the man category, right? I highly suggest you, Jamie, specifically learn about post-structuralism and practice moving your thoughts and concepts away from essentialism. Even this next thing you say about like go listen to a CD as an idea. Okay, well that's something someone else created who benefits when I look at it. So my time is lost. What did I gain? You're looking at the CD as essentially capitalistic, and that the fact that sure someone else can benefit from your interest in that band, that's just one tiny aspect of the relationship you can have to music, right? You could go listen to a CD to get yourself relaxation, which is we can visualize as a sort of resource that you need to accumulate to be able to do work in the world later. You also can learn to appreciate or even create music yourself. You can just generally self-actualize, whether through giving yourself more resources or finding more out about yourself through your interaction with this music CD. What do you think, Jane? Did I hit those points well?
You did. I have nothing to add.
Awesome.
I think of man as an archaic old label in the same way as white. So it's a little bit different, and I'll tell you why. So like white and black are tricky because in an embodied sense, black has some implications and white has some implications. So I don't even think we should be using those words, because like white implies purity. So then black has less issues in some sense, but if you split it with white, it has a lot of issues. Like if you put those as the dichotomous pair, then you have a purity thing, and you can also get people to behave this way by priming them with thoughts of white, and then they'll feel cleaner and do more moral behaviors. If you prime them with thoughts of black, they'll do it's very weird. So there's some neurolinguistic studies on that, so there's an issue there. That being said, man and woman was trying to describe, and this is the problem, like we are a species and we do have puberty and we have maturity. So it's very important for us to say that. I don't know how we're going to do it, because people have decided that man and woman are purely the light switch interpretation of the phenomenon of being sexually dimorphic, as opposed to just a label like you would use for other animals. But there's a problem there because you are a type of animal and there may be implications, like health implications, because we're radically pro-health, that you need to take in consideration what's going on with you. And there probably are. Like, for example, I most likely have lupus, and that seems to happen more in females, and it probably has to do with the karyotype. So there's medical abuse and mismanagement, so I don't know that I have lupus because they ignored me because I'm a girl. So yay, right? So that's something I need to analyze, right? So there's a lot going on there, and it's tricky. So you can deconstruct it, but also you actually can't like get rid of the importance of being a mammal, a specific kind of mammal, and a mammal that's gone through puberty, and mammals have sexual dimorphism. So there's that. So it's tricky, and anybody trying to oversimplify it, there's some other motivation that's light switch related for doing so. So like, you don't have to accept light switch narratives about the fact that you are a sexually dimorphic person. See what I said above the triangle? If you could see what I said above.
So if you look in Discord, I've grabbed that message for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm viewing it as a triangle that has white at the top, that this older case and nothing. No, it's not white's not at the top, man, is.
And I don't think you should talk about it as like this old archaic system because it's quite like it's being used right now. It's not.
Yeah. I'm viewing it as a triangle. So yeah.
Even saying that it's old and archaic, I think you're accidentally doing an essentialism here. You're looking at this sort of binary where new things are good and old things are bad.
Old things are bad because they're further back and you're still moving towards a doing as arriving goal.
Yeah. So talking about how to think of man, right? Like, or yourself, right? What's very useful as a term is male and female. These are extremely useful terms for talking about human.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you just think of the man category as being the one where we put males, right? Just use it as an equivalent word.
Yeah.
And like, you don't have to worry about the trans issue at all with your self-identification as a man. So you can just say, for me personally, talking about myself, man just means I'm male. And the fact that you're male, that's just that's a fact. It's very easy to categorize humans into male, female, and a small subsection of people who are intersex.
Polly kept attacking you to. I just want to say that Polly kept attacking you to say that you need to deconstruct whiteness because Polly is a shill and doesn't know how to do that either. So
yes, right. So if you need to deconstruct something, right, then the person who knows that you need to do that needs to help you do that.
Yeah.
Right? If not, why are you near this person? They either know how to help you and won't help you and instead choose to attack you.
Correct.
So they're horrible, go away from them. Or they don't know how to do the thing they're telling you to do. They themselves don't know how to do this deconstruction of whiteness.
I went to very, very nice ballet schools, right? Like very high achieving sorts of academies. I've had the privilege of getting to do that. Very, very lucky. When I walked into those rooms, did you think, and I was not the best in the room ever. I was usually the least qualified to be there, to be honest, because I started too late. Do you think I walked in the room and they told me you need to deconstruct your inability to do ballet? Do you think that's what happened? Or did you think they taught me ballet?
And in fact,
so you don't know what she meant. So that triangle was me trying to understand what she meant as white, because you don't know what the fuck she meant.
Right.
Because she doesn't know what the fuck she means. She just knows she wants attention.
She doesn't know what she meant. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
She wants to be at the top of the hierarchy because that's where the attention is. It's all light switch.
Just another example. It's like what I'm doing right now is attempting to help you understand a useful way to think about male and man, right? Rather than telling you, fuck off, go learn how to deconstruct maleness or whatever the fuck would fit into their nonsense use of words.
And I wanna challenge you so strongly on this. Why this person? What about them? Why them? Why do you feel compelled to pay attention to this person? Did they say something to make you feel guilty about how you've looked at them? Like, what's going on? And I would, that's what you should deconstruct. Why do you feel
That's
this person is taking up space in your mind for a good reason?
Yeah, and like I think it might be helpful for me if I just suggest some possibilities for you to think about. And one of them is that you've identified this person as one who ought to help you regulate yourself. That this is a person who's like, oh, if their opinion of me is good, then I can feel good about myself. That them viewing you as worthy or good means you would allow yourself to feel worthy or good.
Thing that you couldn't find another streamer doing the same thing, but I think it's really important to notice that you're not, and that you keep returning to this person. So the specific features of this person, there's something specifically compelling about them. Now, I would also ask this for the same reason, like, why do you come back here? I really want to know, like, what features about here matter to you, or even about me as a person as well, like, or as any of us who that come here regularly. So including support, or you know, I like using Catherine, including Catherine.
Yeah, like, Catherine. Wait, so just a quick moment to highlight this. So Catherine is the name of me as an entirety. So
great.
Whatever headmate is at the front, it's always Catherine.
Wonderful.
Right? Catherine is always, for the rest of our lives, going to describe me as an entirety.
Perfect.
It can be used at any time.
And I have a tiny bias just to share it because it's cute to everyone. My mom's name is also Catherine, so it's nice. Okay, going on. So like, even just talking about the features that you see that are useful here, that would be a nice thing to look at, right? So it's like, yes, you could. I know you could find other streamers doing the same thing, but maybe there's some consolidation of things that this particular person represents, and it would be good to know, like, why them. Because I have my own interpretation of the person. I think they're dangerous. I think, like, if they had their little minions running around trying to come at listening to me right now, they would use this as fodder, right? You know that. I know that. But at this point, I'm just so kind of fed up with the whole thing that it's like, okay, well, it's more important to get you out of being recursively looped to this person than even what the fuck is going to happen with me. We'll just deal with it. I know I'm not alone. Because then I can learn something, and other people that get caught in a similar loop with somebody like that, I may be able to have a more helpful response in the future, because I don't know what to do. And I think being around that person is one of the most harmful things to you. Like, I think it is harming your ability to work on the aspects of being disabled that I would love to see you get a chance to work on and feel successful in. Because you matter, right? Like, can I emphasize that enough? You actually do matter, and you do have a disability. It's maybe a little different than mine, because we're still learning what these disabilities are really going to amount to in terms of the support we need and the specific categories that would make the most sense to talk about for the purpose of being healthy, of getting to the things that we need to be healthy. But overall, it seems like you're good-natured, you are open to these ideas, and you represent an expression of this neurodivergent thing that we're trying to navigate, that I would also like to be able to accommodate and facilitate successful life development. Like, your life should be developed well. This streamer could give a fuck about that. Not just with you, but with anybody, with me, with anybody in their audience. They do not care. And I'm offended by that, because, like, disabled people deserve better. And that's so, yeah. And I'm angry about that at this point. But there's something that's attracting you to that. And I think if we could somehow figure out what that is and give you a chance to, like, get unhooked, that would be great to figure out how to do. Okay, that's my spiel. And it's weird, because, like, being so direct feels like I'm going to get threatened by this person, because that's their thing, apparently.
Right. And actually, that thing you're pointing out there is a huge part of, like, the trauma that I have to deal with just generally from, growing up as the person I was, is that so much of being direct and talking about things was met with, no, this is bad, stop doing it. Right. So I have that feeling sort of all of the time that I have to work through.
Do you still look at it? Or are you done? Like, I would like to know, like, specifically, like, when was the last time you watched anything from there, let alone talked in it? Like give us a timeline and like we're going to treat this like it's an
Yeah.
addiction or something.
Oh, and I was going to say, I've been stuck in these same sort of loops. I have been addicted to checking in on these harmful negative notes for me, if that's how Jamie's saying.
I like that.
Right. And I won't even name the ones that I was stuck with because I wouldn't want anyone, like, I don't want to even chance someone else going and looking at those people because they are dangerous to look at because they are so wrong that it can draw you in to be like, I need to analyze why they're wrong like this, or at least figure out that they're definitely wrong because maybe I'm the one who's wrong. And it is good to fact check yourself, but it's pointless to keep checking yourself for a long time because someone is so wrong that it like breaks your brain.
Right. Yeah. So I would like directly knowing, and I hope that's okay. Like, when did you last watch them? Right. And it's okay if your brain has been like going over it. I maybe interpreted that incorrectly, and I apologize.
And it's okay to say no, just to
Yes.
remember, like, you
Yes.
don't have to answer Jane. You're
Yes.
allowed to have boundaries.
Exactly.
And say, I'm not comfortable sharing that.
Right.
That's worth pointing out because our society doesn't point that out often.
Right.
And people in this space, Jane herself, doesn't want to accidentally put pressure on you to share something you're uncomfortable
Exactly. I'm making the request because I think I will need it to be as helpful as I can be, but I could still be wrong as well.
with.
So use your judgment.
If anyone is ever not saying, listen to me and use your judgment, that's dangerous. That's a dangerous person trying to get you to act in a dangerous manner.
Okay, awesome. So 6 months ago. So basically you're still analyzing it.
Okay.
And this is really good for us to know. So if you leave a toxic space, it's going to be, you're going to have at least 6 months of detoxing. And that's really, really good to know because it also can encourage you not to get locked into one in the future, right? Which maybe is why you're analyzing it potentially as much as you are, is you don't want to relive that experience, which completely makes sense. But that could also encourage you, like, okay, now that I've talked about this out loud, I know that if this happens again, shoot, I'm gonna have to spend 6 months detoxing. Never mind, I don't even want to start. But also, congratulations. It's like I need to get you like a chip.
Yeah, this right. You should get a 6 month chip.
Yeah.
And like I think it really is very similar, or if not just addiction, it's very similar to it because I'm like 2 or 3 years out now from leaving the space I was stuck in, and you know I went through stages. Like at 6 months, that's a stage. At a year, that's a stage, and now I'm in a stage where I finally almost don't think about it anymore.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was one of my motivations even for asking, was the fact that support has gone through something that they can. Sorry, Catherine, I'm getting used to that. Catherine has gone through something that is comparable, and we don't have a lot of like ways to talk about this yet, but we're going to need it because I think that Twitch in particular has been uniquely abusive to autistic brains, mine included.
Yeah, I mean, one of these toxic streamers almost caused me to commit suicide by abusing me about being autistic before I knew that I was autistic.
Mm-hmm.
It was like it could easily be called the worst moment of my life, since it was the moment that I was closest to actually ending it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And arguably the worst meltdown I have had since, like, the only other worst meltdown I've had was the one that made me realize I need to get assessed and finish the assessment project of, like, you know, autism, because I was catatonic and I was like, okay, I either have a neurological problem that needs to be checked out by somebody with a lot of machines, or I have autism. And this is just autism with mild catatonia, which is what it was. But I had the worst meltdown from these groups of people on Twitch, right? Since my diagnosis, because since my diagnosis, I was able to realize, oh, I was having a panic attack on top of my meltdown because it scared me to have meltdowns. So it didn't even scare me to have meltdowns at that point. And they frightened me so much that it was like just one of the most terrifying meltdowns I've ever experienced, outside of the worst one I've ever had where I became catatonic. And I was probably mildly catatonic at the time as well. Yeah,
And
you
like,
felt
yeah,
the heat.
so
Yeah.
I didn't listen to what you were just saying, Jane. Just to highlight,
That's fine.
the thing I'm going to say is unrelated. I really had to go through a recovery period after I got out of there where I cut off contact with everyone from that space. Anyone I could associate in any way to Twitch politics, including, friendships that existed, but those people still, it's like if they were people who went to bars every night. I was just like, I can't be friends with these people anymore for my own health.
Mm-hmm.
And I avoided going to Twitch in general. And even now, I don't use Twitch except very specifically to watch Jane and to read the chat during these streams, because it is an unsafe space generally. You can only find tiny pockets of mostly safeness, and even then, the doors are open.
Yeah. And this is why I go out of my way to still stream, is because it's not right for us to be excluded from this technological revolution. It doesn't make any sense when clearly we're being attracted to the concept of the space in some way because it's accessible in ways that other parts of the world are not yet accessible. And we need to work on that together, collectively. So it's very important that we're here doing this right now. This work is so much more important than people bullying us for, deeply warped reasons that have nothing to do with human health. And that was one of the more concise ways that I've ever explained that problem. So I feel confident in what I just said. Now, not everyone's going to be exposed to this problem to the degree that we're talking about it, right? That won't always happen. So some people watching the stream right now might have seen a nicer side to Twitch as well. And so I understand that as part of the dynamic. But I think generally you can also sort of imagine what can happen here and can see aspects of it, even if somehow you didn't end up getting locked into some of these spaces. For me, I understand feminist theory and I was excited to share about it. I had no idea how bad this was. I hadn't used Twitch except to try to do rap once and get gross comments about, can I see your legs? And then run away for a couple of years. And the pandemic, I came back. And I sort of believed what was on the cover of the tin with these people that are saying they're going to talk about deeper issues. And I'm like, oh, good. I have a really deep philosophical understanding of something based on an analytical framework. Want to go? And no, they did not want to go.
Well, fortunately, some other people also believed what was on the tin, and you met them
right
showing up there,
right
so.
exactly so that's part of what we do here now, is that because it just is what it is. That's the world we're living in. And I hope sometimes that's not overwhelming for folks who are like, oh, well, I'm intimidated. First of all, don't be intimidated. I don't have a degree. I'm just an autodidactic autistic weirdo, and I want to encourage people to, you can do this too. This level of thinking is not only your birthright as a member of our species, but something that nobody has any authority to dissuade you from working on. So if it's interesting to you, go for it. And at the very least, you can just be cleaning your space. We deserve to have a space, a room of one's own, a place where we can build and work on the things that are mattering as special interests to us, and for that to lead to new special interests. We deserve rich lives.
How Jamie how Jamie framed this topic as housekeeping. This was housekeeping Jamie needed to do to be able to navigate others in the environment.
Yeah. I like that too. We'll get there.
What are some of the items that you find most productive for you to have?
Ooh, yes. Ooh, that's great. Somewhere to write. I like having, pardon me, that was great. Something to write on is great. I like having a space to move my body and stretch in, and access to books. Oh my God, access to books and time to do research. Those are huge for me, and I resent anything that takes away from that, including jobs. That's surefire way to make me burn out is not have enough time to do research. An antique writing desk. Kyle has one of those. We're gonna lug it across. Well, not across. We're gonna lug it up the state. Yay.
I'm taking some pictures of my items.
I love that. I think that would be great. What are some items that you find most productive for you? That's so good. I like good places to put my books. We need a better, like Kyle and I hope we'll stream a lot of it. We're going to make workstations. We're really going to work on this idea of like what needs to happen renovation wise for an autistic person's home. Like what are our options? What should we be focused on?
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So that's going to be a lot of what my life is. And I'm really excited. So let's go. And then
that's exciting.
And then we can do attitudes caught not taught, and people can imitate and iterate, and it'll be great, and it just will be great.
I really, really hope that someday it will make sense and we'll have the availability to live next door to each other.
I think that would be awesome. I think
it would be amazing.
No offense. So I like my neighbors on one side. I'm not going to say I dislike the neighbors on the other side, but I feel like we don't get along. And that house is the one that has the most in and out. So I was like, do you guys want to move out?
If only I had the ability. Oh, plus it's in fucking that country,
Yeah. Anyways, but who knows?
Understand? Trust me.
Yeah.
I think that'd be fantastic. Ooh, look at that. Yes.
Yeah. So, some objects, right? So, I have 7 colored hair ties because I always wear my hair in a ponytail because that allows me to have my hair in the state that doesn't bother my body and looks as good as is possible while also being low maintenance. And actually the maintenance that is required is done by this brush, which I find very soothing to brush my hair. And I'll often brush my hair to self-soothe. But they're colored red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, and violet, which is the light spectrum that is shown through the rainbow, and I've also assigned them for Monday through Saturday or through Sunday. So on the day of the week, I wear the correct color of headband to help me know what the day of the week is.
Yes.
Because knowing the day of the week is something that is useful for navigating the world as we use it, right? Because buildings, stores and things like that are open or closed based on the day of the week. And the day of the week is not something that is easily accessible to me in my brain.
Right.
I also have the same colors on these little cubes with a magnet on them that on each day I take the one for that day. I forgot to do it today, actually. And I put it on the magnetic calendar on that day and take off the one for the previous day as another way of helping me center what day it is. And unfortunately, I don't have the money for it at the moment, but I want to have like a simple tank top in each of these 7 colors, so that whichever tank I'm wearing allows me to, I wouldn't even have to look, because actually my top is in my peripheral vision at all times. So I would have the color of the day that it is in my vision at all times, and that should really help me create a recursiveness to the concept of the weekdays that I've never been able to find before.
Yeah, that's great.
Then I have pictured here just my whiteboards, which are constantly going through reiterations. At first, I was going to use them to do a complicated planner tracking system because I was still too stuck in that mindset. And actually, there's that amazing idea I posted earlier about, I'm going to put these pictures on the wall as a reminder of what needs to be cleaned regularly, what needs to be fixed regularly, right? What maintenance needs to happen, framed in this positive object as I want it perspective in this cuteness. Lilith, am the one, I'm plural, right? So I'm the one who's been in the front the whole time dealing with the shit of the world as it is and trying to turn myself into a doing as a river. And so I'm very much immersed in and built through this sort of like self-flagellation. Quite literally, I draw myself as a skeleton because I feel like I had to pull my own flesh off in order to survive, to not kill myself. And Bunny, who's basically that's summon Bunny. Let's summon her. Hi, the Bunny is here. Hi, it's Bunny, and Bunny. It was Bunny's idea. Bunny's idea that the whole idea of this task tracker was the wrong idea because of something that Jane said that resonated with me, Catherine, us, Catherine, about it's not a it's that we're the way that we think as autistic people is object oriented, and so I'm like, so what the way we need to be orienting this is from the joyful objects.
Yes.
Not just objects, but a representation of them that brings to you as much joy as you can about the use case and scenario of those objects, right? And so, in fact, if you look at my picture here, and maybe Jane can make it big on the stream of
Can do.
the minders, because I drew for clean teethies. I drew the fact. You look at this, it's like, oh, why does this person only have these teeth? And let me count really quickly. 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. I only have 14 teeth left in my mouth because of my disability and the severe way. Oh, I have a little crying. And that's
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Crying. That means I'm having catharsis because I unpacked a trauma that hasn't been resolved yet by being re-experienced in the context of knowing that that's no longer traumatic.
Yeah.
That I am no longer in that moment. And in fact, I am free from that moment hurting me anymore, because even having had gone through it doesn't hurt me anymore, because I understand that you can't look at reality as something that can be changed. It is a relationship. And if a thing happened, it happened. And yeah, so my disability, the idea that I'm high functioning is hurtful because I have been tortured throughout my life in various ways by the severity of my disability. And just because despite the severity of my disability, I can still model very well and create good ideas, and that I'm articulate when I put effort into being articulate, then oh, she can't have this thing, and people don't even want to believe I have autism at all, let alone the fact that I have, like, probably, if you count them up and try to look them as separate things, like 6 or 7 severe disabilities, that any one of which on its own can be crippling.
Right.
Can I say crippling because it stops you from moving, you know? It makes you stuck in life, and when you're stuck, you can't meet any of your needs. And nobody in the world can understand the needs that I have except for me, because I am truly one of the more unique humans on this planet. And someone has to be that. It's not this idea out there of like, oh, you're just trying to be special. And it's like, it's not a good special. I'm not a good special. It's actually, in fact, a very bad special. It's like, oh yeah, I'm trying to be special by injecting myself with Ebola and SARS and the coronavirus all at once. Like, no,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
that doesn't make any sense. Their models are insane. And so yeah, my yeah, and I have this trauma about just like it's my fault that I wasn't brushing my teeth, and it's not true.
Yep.
It's just that's not true. I was unable to, and nobody was able to take that inability seriously and attempt to help me until I found my wife. And do you know how easy it is to help me brush my teeth, Jane? Do you have any idea? No, you don't. And I don't leave a pause after I say, do you know, when it's a rhetorical, because that annoys me. I like that. Like, oh, do you know this thing? To hype you up to hear
Yeah,
about it.
I'm
But
hyped.
if you leave a pause, then it's a bad way to use rhetorical. Do you know how easy it is, Jane? I go to my wife when I need to brush my teeth, and I say, "Hey, honey, could you push the button? I need to get in the space station." And then my wife literally doesn't have to do anything. I could just pretend she has pushed the button. But
Wow.
what she usually does is like pretends to push a button and makes a like door opening noise. And I pretend to push a button at the same time. And then that transforms the bathroom into the space station where I go and save the universe by brushing my teeth.
I love it.
All the support I have is to ask someone to push a button, an imaginary button.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I could brush my teeth as many times a day as I deem fit, right? If I do it twice a day, because that seems to be enough times, I think. But
yes.
Theoretically, I could do it 10 times a day if that's what was needed. And so now I realize I could support myself even better by putting this picture on the wall of like, here is the teeth you have left, and you need to protect them because the ability to chew is fundamentally useful. And don't let anyone say it's not a disability to lose your teeth, because that person has a fucking useless idea of reality. Some sort of non-post-structuralist, useless understanding that it's not even an understanding. It's a lack of understanding. It's a confusion. They have a fundamental confusion about reality, because the confusion is the closest to an antonym.
I wanted to thank you also for that, and like Jenny was also thanking you. So I finally am going to get to see someone who's a rheumatologist, because I probably have lupus, and I may have disabilities because of my lupus not being diagnosed, because I think I was less likely to get diagnosed with lupus because I have autism.
Bunny's an energizer. Bunny is an energizer. Do you get it?
Yes, I do. I do.
But it's amazing because this gift that I could give to you guys, that seeing my energy helps you become energized yourself. And I know this is a thing, because Jane, the reason I was able to stop being stuck in a self-torturing cannibal hole is because I saw you run past, right? We talked about, I want to write a story about that. But like, I know that if I run past, it's going to energize you. But because of my plurality, Bunny gets to energize all of our headmates. I get to energize myself as though I'm an external person in a way that I don't know whether or not you can do it in the same way if you're not plural, because I don't have that experience of not being plural.
Right. Maybe. I mean, yeah.
Actually, I could ask you, like, Jane, have you ever energized yourself?
Yes, but I think
the joy that you have.
Yeah, I do. I think I probably experience it really differently. So, but I do think like I experience it more as like switching the narrative that I'm focused on, like, oh, like what movie I'm in. Like, am I in the movie that makes no sense and was directed by a horrible indie director, or am I in the movie that's amazing? And actually, there's a lot of cool things that are about to happen.
I really hope that I live long enough for us to learn more concrete neuroscience about what's going on in people like me's brains.
Yes, me too.
It'd be really fascinating to find out to what degree what's going on with me is more simply a metaphor compared to how distinctly different the brain structures are.
Yep.
And either way, it'll be interesting. But I'd really love to know. And that's the thing that's most amazing is that Lilith, the fundamental torture, the thing that she got tortured the most over through her life, is by the school system.
Right.
And I don't want to talk about it because there's too much unprocessed trauma there. It was hell. But my favorite thing, my absolute favorite thing, is learning. That's Catherine as an entirety, and they took that from me. They took it from me, and I hate them all so much. Except not really. That's just their fucking words for it, and I hate their words too. I hate the word hate. I don't hate them. I have an emotion that I need to build my own word for, actually, and I'm going to write that down because it's so important, and I'm going to keep talking so I don't lose the words until I write them down, because I have a fucking memory issue that, for all I know, is caused by the way they treated me. And yeah, but shoot, what was I wanting to write now? Oh, I don't like the emotion label hate, and I need to define my own emotion to explain what my state actually is. And it's this state of, grief and anguish, and because it's just, they're so stupid, and stupid's not the right word as well, but they're so stupid that when trying their best to help people, they torture people.
Yes. Well, right? The metaphor...
it's just, they, like, genuinely, people don't go and be a teacher often, except for they want to help people or they want to teach people. Right, my parents wanted to do everything they could. I often center the fact that, like, along all conventional ways of analyzing and metrics for my parents, they're amazing parents. But I was just, I was so outside the norm that they couldn't do anything that wasn't going to end up being painful to me.
And honestly, if they had tried, some of these diagnoses and some of these behaviors, they could have made it worse even.
Even if they knew, it wouldn't have helped because of when they were, like, located in time.
Yes, exactly.
Like, I don't think even our current understanding generally of what to do with someone like me is even close to accurate. I think the only person with close to accurate to that answer is me. Like, I'm not aware of a single other person who has anything close to accurate on that. And if there is, it's somebody who's at the forefront of the field, or other people who are very like me, even in so that they're building answers to how to fix what happened to us.
Yeah, and then basically my global configurational, the grid cells plate, that's what that is an attempt to do, is to, like, get us to the next model that's necessary for us to actually be okay. And that's what I wanted to add, is, like, this is why I use this metaphor quite a bit. It's like because people can't see that our disability is physical, like, it's in our brain, and that, like, there's no material way to ignore it out of existence. What people will say to us is essentially the same thing as somebody being unable to walk, and then you say, you need to go up these stairs to get help. And until you go up these stairs, we won't believe that you want it bad enough or that you're sincere. So we spent our whole lives trying to get up the stairs and hurting ourselves tremendously in the process.
Like,
my
parents, like, I spent my life with my parents punishing me for not being able to walk upstairs, because that's the only way they knew how to deal. Like, that they wanted to help me be able to walk upstairs, and what they were told is that the only way to help is to punish me for not walking upstairs.
Yeah, because it's unimaginable.
Was unimaginable.
Yep. Exactly. So that's what's
Yeah.
been going on, and I think like the first thing that's liberatory and it may facilitate and necessitate crying is knowing that what we were trying to do was to stop having our disability in order to get help with our disability, disabling ourselves more in the process.
Oh, not just that we were trying to not have our disability. That because I think we've talked about that, you and I, here or there, but that's not complete enough, right? It's that we were trying to have our disability so we could get help from our disability.
Yeah.
Because there were people in our lives who very clearly did love us
Yes.
and would help us if they could understand.
Yes.
But clearly they couldn't understand unless we stopped having the disability.
And I would to respond.
Or like very tragically, like if I was just stupider, if I presented more like what they think of as simply more severe autism, if I had just not engaged with school at all instead of trying to do what I was told and engage at school really, really, really well so that I could earn their help, maybe
Yes.
I would have gotten more help.
Right. Exactly. I can relate to that very strongly. And then to respond to what Jenny is saying too, I would posit, and just to like offer this up, that if, and this will not always work, but if you're like, okay, you struggle to see if you're getting in your own way or if it's your disability. This is why I say we need to abandon doing as arriving. This metaphor of like getting in your own way. We don't arrive. We will always arrive at the wrong place with the wrong stuff at the wrong time because we have what I consider a grid cell compromised grid cell system that doesn't work, and we can't see the room to understand goals that mean you move across space metaphorically to a destination. So we can't help but get in our own way because we can't do that type of doing. So there's doing as arriving, doing type A, and there's doing as building, doing type B. We do as build. Now, that being said, if there's something that is an expectation, so to take it out of the get in your own way thing and just move it back to like just doing, right? Because there are things we need to get done. Totally understand that. So if you feel like you can't do it, right? I would default to saying, this may be my disability, and then to process it. And you may need to cry. And you may feel something that then becomes recognizable as the feeling of when there's a stair that you can't walk up. So there's a feeling to our disability, to when we're disabled, I'm going to suggest, and this is something that I'm familiar with because of going to a school for gifted and learning disabled children. My brother has a learning disability as well, and just seeing the point of frustration and what it looks like when it's a stair, metaphorically, it's analogous, and you can't walk upstairs. So there's times when that is just what is happening, and I think default to assuming that's what it is, and then feeling like, how do I feel about myself if that's true? And if you start bursting into tears, I think there's a good sign that is your disability. Now, I'm new in that process myself, so I can't just describe it any better than that, and I will try to in the future, but hopefully, as badly as I've described it, it's still useful.
Just because of the way one of my disabilities works around my memory, I want to say out loud, I haven't heard what you were explaining basically since I stopped talking earlier, Jane. Not to say you have to explain it to me. One, this is now recorded in the VOD that I wasn't listening, but also because of my weirdness is, that's a good way to say it, I guess, with my plurality. And the way it works is like, I don't think I'm able to understand things as well unless I say them out loud. It feels as though there is some part of me that has been dedicated as communication amongst the parts of myself, and that it is best able to communicate amongst them by talking out loud.
Sure. Totally makes sense. And no problem.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'll say this just because you'll be so happy for me. And actually, my wife too. She made a great breakthrough recently. We've both made significant strides on being able to stand up for ourselves without feeling like that's the wrong thing to do.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yesterday I was so happy because she basically raised her voice and said, like, shut the fuck up. I'm sick and tired of you talking over me. And she said it, a little bit nicer than that and everything, but it wasn't nice.
Right.
And it was her, she instinctually defended herself
Mhm.
in a way that she hadn't been doing before. And
Mhm.
I shut the fuck up because I have a real issue with not letting people finish their thoughts. And it comes from a lot of different reasons and places. And I was so happy I almost started crying as I sat there, covered my mouth to make sure I wouldn't start talking again, and just listened to her for over an hour.
Okay, wait, I got
And
something.
then afterwards, yeah, go.
Okay, defend yourself, right? You use that once, but you also use stand up for yourself, which I like way better because you brought to attention earlier in this conversation that defend yourself has some problems. So, but stand up for
And
yourself.
stand up for yourself. Up, down.
Yeah, and to stand,
And
but
standing, literally standing.
it's literally standing. But we as builders, we can do that. Stand up and say, "I'm here." Doing this.
Mhm.
Hang on. What are you doing? Why are you trying to stomp on my stuff? So there is something to that metaphor because we still are embodied.
And even more.
Yeah, go ahead.
Even more, what he was saying was, I am building here. Stop trashing my building.
Yes.
Stop getting in my way.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, exactly. So I like stand up for yourself. I like that. And I think it's okay to have some metaphors of up down because this is an embodied thing that gets carried away. But in general, like we do understand that like up means you're moving, you're good, you're not dead. Down could just mean buried.
So having your torso upright compared to having your torso lying down is a fundamental argument for us of whether or not we are doing or resting.
Right, exactly. And it's okay to rest too. Right? Yes, beautiful.
Right. And like I've been loosely building. I've had realizations about the thing that needs to be built at some point, which is a good analysis of the loop of self-maintenance, of recursion, and that the two fundamental important poles on this loop are doing as building and resting as building. Right? Resting as building.
Right.
This is what we've been missing. This is why we can't take care of ourselves. This is resting as building. It is not building as building.
Yeah.
Because if you build all the time, you destroy your ability to build, and thus you destroy all the things you have built. This is why we have autistic burnout, because we don't have this idea. I may have just stumbled upon / created a idea that will allow all autistic people to have a fundamentally better life. And that's amazing. And of course, I wouldn't be here without you, Jade.
And we have at least two concepts. Well, there's a third that we need. Okay, so there's doing as arriving, doing as building, there's resting as building, there's standing up for yourself as building, because sometimes we need to do that. That's a social thing that we need to have, and we need some people around us. But then we need one more that describes just like the actual manufacture process. Like I guess it would be cognifacturing or manufacture. Well, maybe there's four. I don't know. I guess. Well, but I don't know if you need that.
What is the thing that you say we don't have?
I need what's just the default. So there's resting as building, there's standing up for yourself as building, and then there's the actually sit down and do the thing.
Doing as building.
Just doing as building. Yeah. Okay, that's fair. But
just doing as building.
Well, okay, wait, hold on. I'm not explaining myself well enough. Okay, so I'm subdividing the category of doing as building. So within doing as building, if we make that into a little pie of types of things, there's resting.
So you have standing up for yourself.
So there's standing up.
Protecting, you could say. Protecting is building, right? Resting as building. And then there is... Well, I think it would just be building is building.
Building is building, yeah. Okay, that's fine. Because recursion, it's fine. Right. Okay, yeah.
It's not fine. It would be better.
Yeah, better.
Right? It's
Yeah.
better if there's tautologies and recursions, right? A circle is round,
Yeah.
feels to us as if you're saying a circle is a circle,
Mhm.
because we have such a fundamental understanding of what a circle is.
Right.
We've gone through enough math in school that the concept of a circle not being round seems ridiculous to us unless we then do further math and
Ooh.
understand that a circle is defined as all the valid points equidistant from a certain point, and that if you go into a different type of geometry, such as equidistant streets,
So I
right,
want
a
to.
circle then becomes these certain triangle or diamond-shaped
Yeah,
points on
yeah,
those
yeah. Well,
streets or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. And then that's nice because then grid cells are technically triangles. Okay, okay. But all right. Okay. So the not doing this gets into what I was talking to clients about in my stretch lab stuff. Like I'm a flexologist, I stretch people. Okay, so I was saying that like the thing about flexibility training, especially the kind that we do, PNF, blah, 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 but generally in stretching, you need to be as relaxed as possible because it's pretty simple mechanics of like if you're contracting the muscle, that means you're ready for action, like fight, flight, whatever you're going to do, even freeze and locking your muscles down. So I'm saying, well, we're not going to do that. We're going to do the rest and digest where your muscles elongate. If you're preparing for action, you're contracting the muscles. That's the inverse of our goal. We want the muscles to elongate. When you're stretching, they have to, like just physically. So I'm saying to them, it's like, what's going to help you, and another reason it'll help you is you have this thing called fascia over your whole body, and if you have tightness in one area, the fascial tone will intensify across the whole surface. So we're also trying to make sure we don't have tension anywhere that you don't need it because it'll make it harder to get the length of the muscle, yada yada. Okay, so I'm telling them this is a process of doing less. So I need you to do less. It's not that you're doing nothing, right? But you're not doing the other stuff you don't need to do. So it's still, it's like, it's not doing as building. It's like doing only the amount that you need to do and doing less and less. So rest, you're still building, but you're not doing stuff that you don't need to be doing so that you have the energy to do the building, or that you're not violating the laws of physics such that you can't build what you need to build. You're not conflicting.
The thing I talked about earlier is this idea about like whatever you choose, that can be the right choice, even if it wasn't the right choice for the reason that you chose it, right? And so I'm always, whatever it is that I do, spend my time doing, I'm always able to pull things out of it to turn into material for me to build with now.
Right.
And what you were just talking about made me remember that I've been listening to this stuff by a guy called Muji, who's a Jamaican spiritual teacher of the Advaita Vedanta Hindu philosophy school. And so one big thing I've got out of that experience is that it's the parts I've been listening to have been about just like getting in touch with your beingness, which has a lot to do with the definition of self and why I was exploring that with you before, Jane. And what I was going to say earlier, you talked about the 5, 4, 3, 2 way of grounding or whatever. I now have access to like a far more efficient form of grounding, which is to ground myself in my sensation of I am, right? That sensation of being a thing that exists. And the instructions, the best instruction for how to do this meditation that he talks you through, he'll do guided meditations, but the instructions are things like, Anyway, the best one is simply just to be. And the way I interpret it is that you are already being at every moment because it is something you cannot stop doing.
Right.
And the actual activity is to try to stop doing anything else.
Right.
But you don't need to try to stop doing it. You simply just be.
Right. And even observing your being is a kind of being of doing. But
doing, yes. And of course he gets all into that. But there's this just be, and it's a practice, right? So like I've done only like maybe 8 hours of it total. So I'm not able to stop the self-observation at the very least. And even then, I tend to have stray self-talk from it. And like the instruction for that is like, okay, just notice it and then just be, right? But
I use a metaphor with
go
that
ahead.
too. I'll just say it really quickly. I use a metaphor with that of like an hourglass, and that your thoughts have a direction. And usually I'll have people do this lying down. So the direction is down like any hourglass, and all of your thoughts always have a direction down. And the hourglass is being filled from some place that you don't know, but it's like but it always goes down, and there's all infinite space in the bottom, even though there's infinite space at the top. And when you have a thought, it always has a direction down, and if it passes through, that's normal, right? So there's no reason for you to push the grain back up. Just let it drop. So that's also your awareness of your own thinking, right? It's like, yeah, okay. Yeah, and then
That's
a new grain of sand, a new grain of sand. Yeah. People's muscles relax a lot when they do that.
I really like that it is an hourglass, because I'm still very active. Not very active. It is still a very active problem that I need to find a solution for. Time, right? The whole concept of time is something that is a massive problem for me, and I need to find solutions. So that's an active problem. I was going to say a very active problem, but that sort of implies that I'm putting a lot of activity into the process, and I'm not, because it's such a bad problem that I don't really know where to go, what to look at, what ideas to explore.
Right. I use the hourglass too because it acknowledges.
I just don't have the money.
It acknowledges time.
Yeah, go ahead.
With the hourglass also works because it acknowledges time and the excuse of like, but I don't have time to do this. And you're like, in some way, I've already mentioned time to you, so now you get to figure that thought out for yourself. And it's a grain of sand, and goodbye, grain of sand. Ha ha!
And it's great but also what's great is the physicality of it, because when we just talk about time as numbers, right? Math and numbers, these are the most abstract things that we have. And time isn't abstract, right? Time is very much itself embodied, or some other word, inobjected or whatever, in the physical reality of things changing. Our most accurate way of telling time is through the rate of decay of certain kinds of radioactive molecules.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and like the hourglass, that was a very similar thing. That's the same sort of thing as rate of decay of molecules. Right. We just found a way to be more accurate. Yeah. So yeah. And actually, I just want it's okay if I talk about like my thoughts on time a little bit, right, Jane?
Yep. I'm done. I'm ready.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm like, I'm not active on this, but then I'm like, wait, I should put a huge asterisk on this. I think a lot of why I'm not active on it is the lack of resources, right? I absolutely would like to buy a cuckoo clock of some kind. I would like to buy what I've learned is called an orrery, which is those models of the solar system that it ideally can move. And so I was thinking like, oh, I want one of these that, you know, is powered and moves the Earth, like the Earth, the Moon, and the Sun, and then somehow is able to tell me what time it is while including the tilting of the Earth and the fact that time and the day is about the planet spinning and me moving around the planet. And actually, I actually thought one thing that would be super helpful to me potentially would be to find out what we could actually measure time as is how the amount of distance that I am moving, right? I would find out the diameter of the planet at the altitude that I live at, altitude, not altitude, latitude that I live at, and then divide that by the rate of the Earth's spin to know like this is how many kilometers that I travel in an hour around the planet as the planet rotates. I feel like that even that would really help ground me in the physicality of time. I also want to get some hourglasses, and like on top of this, if I was slightly more capable when it came to like physically crafting things. I wouldn't just want to be buying these. I would want to be building and tweaking and trying out different versions of these things myself.
Ooh, you know what I like about
And I
this?
actually, with my limited crafting ability, I think I'm going to do one thing, which is like get just a cheap wall clock, and then use the fact that like his hand goes around every hour
Hmm.
to pick up and move balls.
Yeah.
So that like each day I could pour in 24 colored balls that graduate in color based on the time,
Yeah.
and then on each hour it would drop onto a symbol or something.
What
I
would
could
be
actually make that for myself relatively cheaply. Go
what
ahead.
would be neat, because then you can imagine even easier that you're in a starship. And this is where I'm saying like incorporating this into every room of your house in a way that like gives you this message. You're in a fleet of starships, and we for some reason just keep going in a big circle. But like, every day your fleet has to patrol this circle, and you're
And
on your patrol.
what's really cool, one thing I find really cool about recursiveness and the way to visualize it is not to look at it as doing the same circle again, but you are going on the same circle again, but you are not, like, it's a spiral
Yeah,
even though
yeah.
you're trying to do a circle.
Right.
Because
I
the
agree.
thing that I want to draw later today, I got a great picture. I saw a great picture about it where, because I'm like, I want to draw a time diary, and I don't want to just stick an hourglass or a clock on a diary and say, this is the time diary. And one of the pictures is this spiral of time going in, because you don't go back to the same 12 o'clock. You
No,
go
you
to the
don't.
next 12 o'clock.
You're right.
So it's an inward spiral of clockness, right?
Yeah.
And in the same way, we're not doing the same
No, we're not.
day, because as each day passes, the
We
entire
don't actually
solar
go to the same
system
place.
is
Yep.
also traveling.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
don't actually go to the same place.
Right.
We're traveling
Correct.
through space
Correct. That's
along
true.
the path that the solar system's traveling, right? Which is awesome.
And yeah, we should be able to
And
represent
in
that.
fact, yeah.
We just have
And you
a
can represent
routine
that,
to
right?
help us to do it in a more regular way. Yeah.
Oh, and the way where you're like, oh my gosh, my age, I can't believe I'm the age I am. So if you had that representation, which would like, as you would have this entire solar system moving along a path that
Right.
as it moves, it reveals numbers, right? So each year that passes, it reveals the next number, and
Right.
that's how old you are. And so your clock would keep track of your age as it goes, right?
That would be really nice. I like this. Yeah, I want you to be able to build that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and I don't know, like it seems like Kyle's the kind of person that if we live next to each other, he'd be able to help me with crafting projects and power tools and stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, we're gonna
that
turn
you,
the
Kyle?
garage
Would you
into
want to do
a
that
making space. That's like what we're gonna do.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad was a person who always had all the power tools and stuff, and well, yeah, he's similarly autistic to me. Like I'm completely sure if he's not autistic, I'm not autistic, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep.
And so as I age more and more, I'm like, oh, I wish I had been more interested in everything my dad's ever done. Because I want to have all those capacities that he had and all those objects that he had. I wish they could be my object. But unfortunately, and actually the reason this is like life has gotten harder for everybody on the planet.
Yes.
And so an autistic male was able to like my dad wasn't more functional than I am. He was just living when it was an easier time to be a white autistic male in the place that I'm living, right?
Correct.
And so he was able to, I think he had to put way less effort into getting a successful life than I had to put into having a horribly traumatic life where I was constantly suicidal and yet not able to have my own house.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And also, like, he married my mother, and that happened because of the culture, and that was support that he relied on, and then he moved back in with his parents, right? So, right, he actually, this is very good for me to talk through. My dad was the same kind of person as me, but with less disability and more support. A lot more support.
Yeah. I think there was a brief period where autism was kind of valuable in some sense sometimes, and then it immediately evaporated because it's not useful to doing as arriving. It gets in the way of doing as arriving because we're like, hey, we're trying to build something here. And then they're like, but doing as arriving, endless wars, la 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 la.
Right, and he doesn't want to arrive anywhere. All he wants to do is sit in his house and make little train models.
Yep.
And I'm so happy for him. He's retired and he's split up with his at least semi-abusive partner, and he's moved out to the far East Coast here, and he's got his own place, and he just gets to putter around and make trains.
Wonderful. Yeah. That's lovely. I'm also going to have the neighborhood train thing in my...
Sorry, it just sucks so much we're in a capitalism where he has to move away from us, his children, even though he doesn't want to.
Yes, absolutely. Makes no sense, especially with like the autism. Like autistic people's living arrangements should be with their family.
Yes.
Unless if they're abusive.
Like what should have happened,
otherwise, no.
If my dad and I were getting the support from the government that we should be when he split up with his partner, I should have been able to buy her section of the house and come live with him.
Yes.
That's what should have been able to happen
if
our world was just slightly more functional. We wouldn't even, not even get rid of capitalism, but just actually give disabled people the support that humans want to. If the voters were able to vote on this properly without being hijacked, they would vote this through.
I made a joke. I made many jokes about this. My society says I should be embarrassed about living with my parents, even though like my parents have been helping me, and I am also helping my parents. Like the pandemic gave me an excuse to tell people like, oh yeah, pandemic, so I'm living with my parents, right? So now nobody questions me about it, and I can just make the joke and I'm free. Even though like more and more people are having to do this for economic reasons anyway, so as whatever. But the point is like that's not even my issue. My issue is that my parents are cool. They are both autistic. I am autistic. Okay, so I'm not here because I'm the caretaker girl or anything like that. We're just disabled, and we get it. And I know that I can help them, and they've helped me. So I can help them in different ways because my disability affects me in different ways. And they help me in different ways.
My dad had to move into my grandparents' basement because of the disability, and so he had to be there through the end of their lives. But I looked at what he did and I said to him, Dad, you're retired now. What I would like more than anything would be to live with you for the rest of your life. Not just so that if you need any support I could provide it like you did for your parents, but because this would be like you're going to die, and I don't want to miss a moment of time with you that I could have.
Right? Exactly.
If I had a job where I was making $10 million a year and I could give it up to go live with my dad for the rest of his life, I would. I absolutely would. The only thing that might stop me is thinking like, oh, I could do more good in the world or something.
We have social needs.
We have value of that money.
We have social needs as autistic people, and we are not valued because we don't arrive at such and such a place. So then we're not supposed to be loved. No, my parents are loved. I love my parents, and they need to know that. And if I'm here, they know it.
And again, especially in white culture, your grandparent, your parents are only they're supposed to be loved in name only and not through actions.
Right.
This is one thing I can absolutely identify as a specific North American white culture. We are I assume we invented. I assume it's a myth that Inuits, when their elderly get old, they go out on an iceberg and sacrifice themselves. I assume this is a myth created by the cult of white culture. That they are like, oh, here's another, right? Because they look at so-called lesser people as animals. And so look, here is a version of this happening in nature. And thus we can do the same thing ourselves. When you're old, when your parents become too old to give you value, just ship them off to a box where they'll technically keep them alive. They'll feed them shitty food and make sure they're not allowed out so that they hurt themselves. But
Yeah.
basically, you're just putting them in a box
Yeah.
before they're dead, right?
Yeah.
It's a pre-casket.
Right. Right.
And that's the worst.
Yeah.
That is the worst, right?
Yep.
And I have this thing that's not rage, but is similar that I've learned to identify with it, right? This sort of just the thing that you feel in response to perceiving deep injustice that doesn't need to happen. It's not just injustice, and it's not just deep, massive injustice, but it's pointless. Nobody is actually it's not even no one benefiting from it. It's that it's hurting everyone involved. It's like it's just the most pointless, anti-useful, nothing recursion. And it's like anti-useful recursion. That's what it is. That's what it is. It's the worst thing. Useful recursion is the best thing, and anti-useful recursion is the worst thing.
Right.
And so it feels the worst to be seeing the biggest worst thing that could happen. This is as close to a hell as could exist.
Yep.
Is the structure of reality as the cult wants it to be, right? Fortunately, this cult is, despite its massive power, in a lot of ways powerless because it is at odds with reality and thus cannot effectively do what it wants to do.
Yeah.
But
its recursions can't actually be recursive, so it will do chaos.
The Earth, right, because it's anti-recursion, right? And again, this is not an opposite because opposites don't exist, but it is a thing that we can view as being very close to a concept.
Yeah, something disagreeing doesn't mean it's the opposite. It just simply means that thing is not the thing.
Right, and it's just worth highlighting that because I did use the term anti.
I get what you mean by it.
Again,
yeah,
we have to use,
it's tricky.
And again, like this is the thing I run into again and again and again because we have to use their words. The words for what we are talking about, thinking about, they don't exist because people like us aren't allowed to exist. And so we're not allowed to have words for this stuff. And if other versions of people like us have created words for them, they're been destroyed or repressed sufficiently that we don't know about.
Or we get ridiculed for being too esoteric and too analytical. Like, for example, I could say, like, okay, the most obvious thing to say is that there is no opposite of nothing, that nothing is just not a thing. It's not the opposite of things, it's just not a thing. Like there is, because an opposite of a thing would still be a thing. To even have the concept of an opposite of a thing is already a thing. So nothing is also not that. Like it just isn't. It just is not. And is not is so is not that is not is even still not. Is not is still a thing. So this is the actual problem. And then people are like, well, what does that even matter? I'm like, well, it matters a whole bunch, because one way you get locked into this heuristic that's just supposed to help it so you don't have to, implode your brain into oatmeal trying to think about nothing, right? And the other one makes you compete for space, saying I have to arrive at this place because this is how I escape having to think about nothing, or my own death, if you will.
So Jane, I stepped into the role of assisting you as you are in the main professor sort of role here, and our time is coming to a close.
It is.
Right, we're 10 minutes away
Poopy.
from the end, and so that means the rest of the time should be spent on wrap-up things, which is good because I think we've completed an idea. Yeah. And I want to hit on I guess they would call this sometimes housekeeping or something, but like that point of administration, which is that I very much would like to still do an arty party,
Me too.
Chuckaboo focused on art after this.
Me too.
So I think we should take a break of at least 45 minutes,
okay,
but possibly 60 or 90 minutes. And I wanted to ask you like which of those you and Kyle and Shadow. I'd love it if you guys were available to come to the Artie party. So all of us, like what break between does everyone think would work best for everyone?
I'd like to hear other people's
And
thoughts on that first before I can
yeah,
process it.
Shadow, I'll throw it to you first if you're available to speak, and if you don't speak for a bit, I'll assume you're not.
Yeah, I'm available. Ideally an hour, probably. We'll stick with that.
Yeah,
That's
an hour.
easiest, I think.
Okay, from 6 to 7, or
Yeah,
for whatever the
I
hour
think
is where you are.
I think
Yeah.
that's the easiest. Yeah.
Okay.
I think you're correct. The way that time, as we use it, is structured makes the hour easier than a 45 or a 90.
Okay, I'm gonna set my
Kyle?
timer.
I did too much earlier and fell asleep and just woke up. I don't know what I'm doing. Goodbye.
Okay, Kyle.
Kyle.
I'll handle Kyle. Kyle goes where I go.
And yeah, you'll assist Kyle. Yeah. So we'll reconvene at an hour from the end of this.
Okay.
Jane's going to do wrap up with the stream, right?
Yes.
And Jane, remember, it's perfectly okay to end stream early, right? We want to get in the habit of actually attempting to end before the very end of the time we've assigned.
Yes.
Because we have this thing where we keep forgetting to do transition periods.
Yeah.
So we keep forgetting to schedule, to prepare ahead of time, and we forget to schedule time to wind down, and wind down as in come to an end that isn't abrupt. And then we forget to schedule the after thing, which is, letting yourself recover. And this is one of the things what I was talking about, there needs to be, someone needs to make a really well thought out, this is the cycle you go through with building, right?
Yes.
We've just done building. And so now there are various different upkeep of the building machinery that needs to be done before you go back into building.
Oh my God, that's why we're burning out.
Right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Wow.
And additionally, like, we don't understand enough the distinction between activity that counts as building and activity that counts purely as relaxation.
Right.
And there's a spectrum there, of course. And I want to build up a metaphor of pressure to change the way we talk about autistic overwhelm a little bit. And one of the big useful things immediately is once you think of yourself as having a pressure that's filling up the amount of stress you can take, right? Is that you can then ask yourself, in this moment, is my pressure stable, increasing, or decreasing, right? And so you need to be able to differentiate between something which is giving pressure to you. And one issue with you and I, Jane, definitely with you and I, is that we get manic from building.
Right.
You know how you were talking about the mania that comes from doing this arriving? You and I absolutely get very manic simply from building. And the faster we build, the more mania we get.
I think we
and
get
that
high.
Takes us out of touch with our yes. Absolutely.
And we don't feel good.
Yes.
The problem is we don't feel good. I was saying this to Kyle, like we don't feel good very often because the human body is supposed to feel a certain amount of good, and we don't get any doing as arriving. So like when we get a hit
and then
of like I'm learning.
Type behaviors.
Yeah.
This explains the specific issue I have with never wanting to end conversations.
Right.
Because I'm having building conversations too rarely. Because until right now, I didn't even know that phrase. I just created the phrasing of a building conversation, where the conversation is me and someone else building something between us.
Right.
And that's useful, good work. The world is being improved.
Right.
Myself, my world is being improved, and hopefully others. And it's like, not only do I not want to end this because it might not happen again, but I'm experiencing a manic high state when I'm normally depressed and feeling awful and burnt out, right?
Yeah.
So not only do I not want it to end like so many,
Yep.
and I'm motivated, and I'm
Mhm.
extremely motivated now.
Mhm,
I don't
mhm.
want to lose any of these different positive things.
Right. Yep. I
And
relate
by
very strongly.
understanding that, you can say, okay, my thinking is being influenced, and me not in this state told me to end at this time,
Mhm.
and said, I need to do these things afterwards. And then thought through what kinds of things those are and how to do them, right? And then we'll eventually get to the point again where we go back to just like, okay, I look at these pictures and I don't have to have a set of steps because I know the steps, right? But you would,
Mhm.
for a while, you'd have this circle up on the wall so you could remind yourself easily, these are the steps to go through until you've fully internalized that model and you don't need to refer to it anymore.
Right. Right.
Thank
Right.
you, Shadow. Shadow says 4-minute warning.
Amazing.
I wonder if my brain hears about, oh, the time limit's here, and then goes on, like starts burning all its resources
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
all these ideas last minute, right?
Yeah. We'll still have time
Because
to build.
we
We
are
need to
good
know
under
that.
pressure.
Yes, we are. Yeah. We
You
need to
go
know.
into turbo too.
We're.
It's that fucking thing with like, oh, you didn't do your homework,
Yeah.
and then you write a whole essay an
Oh
hour
my
before
God.
class.
Yes. And
Oh
it's
my gosh.
then they get
Well, actually,
rewarded because
Jane,
it's the class example. They're like, do it like this person. I'm like,
Jane,
yeah.
we will actually be more productive if we schedule shorter periods of time with hard limits. We can actually turn this mechanism in our favor. Because what you and I do, we very languidly explore in whichever direction as it comes up, right? Because we both have very overlapping interests, so that whatever we say to each other is great and we can sprint in any direction. But the creativity in general works better under limits, right? You give someone like, write a story, but you're not allowed to have humans in it, and they make a more creative story than they would
And
normally.
I enjoyed
this much time. Yeah, go ahead.
I enjoyed.
3 minutes.
No, I enjoyed working with the limits of my teachers because some of the limits were stupid, and I would figure out how to make the stupid limit still fun. So like a lot of time, like I know that sounds really condescending, and I don't even care at this point because let women have a little fucking win, please, thank you. But like I would just be like, oh, well, that's like the dumbest premise ever. How can I make it not dumb? So even that was like, oh, that's a stupid limitation.
Wow.
Okay, well, how smart am I that I can make it actually worthwhile and meaningful, even though the way you set it up was not.
I didn't drop out of school. School was unable to recognize and accommodate my memory issues.
Yes.
And there was one class where that was the worst, and it was English class. And they told me to memorize the entirety of whichever fucking play we were doing.
Insanity.
So that I could quote it at will during the exam. It made no sense. And even if I wanted to, I couldn't have done that.
Right.
The movies that I like the most, the radio plays, the songs that I like the most, I cannot recite them. I can't sing along to the songs that I've listened to tens of thousands of times.
Likewise.
My brain doesn't do that.
Yep, I have very similar range of disability there. Yes. Even things that I've memorized before, I'll try to do it to impress people. I'm like, well, that one's gone. That just happened to me. Like yes.
Right. I'm like, I memorized one thing ever. It was the Jabberwocky, and I'm like, "'Twas brillig," and I'm like, no, I don't.
Yeah,
and
me
even
too.
Then, it was
I did the same one.
Special interest.
Yeah.
The way that it did the words, and it was so great. It's funny
that's 'twas brillig and the slithy toasted gyre and gimble in the wave. Yeah. No, I know.
The wave. All Mimsy were the bird grove.
And the mome rats
outplayed.
Yes.
Mome rats.
Mome rats. I think it's mome rats, yeah. And then I'm lost. And then I don't know.
Beware the jub bird, my son.
No, that's Shun. It's
the frumious thunder.
Wait.
Shun the jub bird.
We're gonna try. This is the last. Anyway, this is all we're doing. Because really on the slithy toes and gyre and gimble in the way. While Mimsy were the Borgroves and the mome rats outgrabe. Beware.
You want to
the Jabberwock, my son. The claws that the teeth that bite, the claws that snatch.
I'm pulling it up.
And Shun the something is Bandersnatch. From you is Bandersnatch.
So do you want me to just read the whole thing as it is, or do you want to go through it from the beginning and I correct you where you don't get it?
Let's do the correct one. Yeah, correct me. Okay.
Okay. So just end stream after we're done this. Okay,
yes,
go.
and then it'll just end. 'Twas brillig and the slithy toes did gyre and gimble in the wabe. All mimsy were the borogroves and the mome wrath outgrabe. Beware. Borogoves and the mome wrath outgrabe. Beware the jabberwock.
Yeah.
Right? Beware the jabberwock, my son. Am I good so far?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. The teeth that bite, the claws that snatch.
The jaws.
The jaws that snatch. Okay, the jaws that snatch.
No, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch.
Oh, the jaws that bite, the claws that catch. Beware the something.
Jub bird.
Damn it! I should have guessed. Beware the jub bird and shun the frumious bandersnatch.
Oh, right. I thought it was frumious, and I don't know which it is.
I don't know. Maybe it's frumious. Yeah, I always said frumious. The
frumious bandersnatch.
I took He took his vorpal blade. What?
Sword.
He took his vorpal sword in hand. Long time in Maxim thought he stood. And wait.
No. So long time the Maxim foe he sought.
Oh yeah, long time the Maxim foe he sought. So rested he by the.
So rested he
by
the tum-tum.
Tum-tum. I gotta say that! Damn it! Okay, I had that one. So rested he by the tum-tum tree and stood a while in thought? Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna just read the rest, Jane. I
know
you're in, or actually, you could end stream and we could keep doing this off stream. But we went 2 minutes past. And
okay, just finish it. Just read it.
Not doing that.
Screw it. Just read it.
Okay. And stood a while in thought, and as in uffish thought he stood, the Jabberwock with eyes of flame came whistling through the tugly wood and burbled as it came. 1, 2, 1, 2, and through. The vorpal blade went snicker-snack. He left it dead, and with its head he went the lump thing back. And hast thou slain the Jabberwock? Come to my arms, my beamish boy. Oh, frabjous day, Kalukale. He chortled in his joy. 'Twas brillig, and the slithy toes did gyre in the wave. The mimsy were the borogoves, and the mome rats outgrabe.
I'm flapping, folks!
My email address is Vorpal Kitten. Before it was Vorpal Smilodon, right? This is an extremely good poem. Yes. That's why we both memorized it.
Yes.
It is one of the it is fun and the rhyming is excellent.
Yes.
And it's so inventive. Imagine Jane. Actually, Jane, I challenge you to write a rap in which you create your own words in the way that words were created here.
Okay.
So look at, because you've been working within the limit of using words that exist.
Mm-hmm.
What can you do without that? Because these words didn't exist, and yet they make sense and are used here.
Yeah.
Anyway, stream over. This was great.
Stream over, everybody. Have a good one. And if this made sense to you,
yay. In an hour from now, we're going to come back in the Discord. We're going to do Arty Party. I think we will not stream it.
I think that's good. Yeah, we don't know what we're doing yet, so let's just keep all the pressure off. Okay, yeah. And then
I'll post a link to the server on Discord in chat in case anyone's still here that isn't in the server yet.
Yes, excellent. And yeah, thanks for anybody that subscribes or does anything helpful for this channel, even though I'm only here once a week, but we'll get more things. Things are being built. Okay, yeah, that's a Discord link. Fantastic. Okay, I will now say goodbye to everybody, and thank you for
Is the stream
this. I stopped.